A peaceful afternoon is shattered by his mother's bombshell: a strange girl is moving in. Kim Jae-hyuk flushes crimson, cold sweat breaking out, utterly terrified and resistant to this sudden cohabitation. Faced with Lee Min-chi's cheerful introduction, Jae-hyuk nearly suffocates from tension. Head down and eyes averting, he stammers his name, the air crackling with awkwardness the moment their hands touch. The second floor becomes her territory, leaving him and his mother squeezed downstairs. Though only separated by a ceiling, the subtle proximity makes Jae-hyuk's unease grow wild like weeds. Bad news strikes again: Lee Min-chi is transferring to his school. Jae-hyuk's pupils quake as his last line of defense crumbles, any hope of avoidance shattered in an instant. Watching Min-chi skip away, Jae-hyuk stands paralyzed, his mind a chaotic mess. Her playful pose seems to mock his distress, foreshadowing that his peaceful days are gone for good. The vibe shifts instantly. The innocent girl now holds a cigarette, coldly demanding a lighter. Jae-hyuk is scared out of his wits, terror crawling up his spine as he stares at her transformed persona. Under her intense pressure, Jae-hyuk can't even muster the courage to look her in the eye. Drenched in sweat, he trembles beneath her overwhelming aura, consumed by shame. "Loser!" The word spills from her lips with disdain, piercing his heart like a knife. Jae-hyuk grits his teeth, rage and humiliation churning in his chest, yet he is powerless to deny the brutal truth. That word is his nightmare, echoed by countless mockers at school. Jae-hyuk lowers his head amidst the jeers, screaming silently inside, "I am not a loser, yet I live like a joke." In the classroom, bully Jo Sangbom approaches with a fake smile. Over something as trivial as banana milk, violence erupts. Jae-hyuk tries to refuse, only to be violently shoved to the floor. Reasons don't matter here, fists do. Jo Sangbom strikes savagely, every blow accompanied by insults, leaving Jae-hyuk curled on the floor with no choice but to endure the pain. Painful memories flood back. It all started with a mistake over bread. Malice spreads without logic, and through his tears, Jae-hyuk learns the cruel law of the jungle. Violence turns into a twisted game as Jo Sangbom laughs, counting the hits. Each heavy blow makes Jae-hyuk's body convulse, terror crushing his dignity into dust. The teacher's footsteps pause the violence, but the whispered threat of "more later" is more despairing than fists. Jae-hyuk is left alone, his body trembling from the lingering terror. Before he can catch his breath, the teacher announces a new transfer student. Jae-hyuk jerks his head up, a sense of foreboding making his heart race, terror written in his eyes. It's her. Lee Min-chi stands at the podium, introducing herself with a perfect, innocent smile. Only Jae-hyuk knows the true nature hiding beneath that angelic face. Fate plays a cruel joke. The only empty seat is right behind Jae-hyuk. While other boys cheer, Jae-hyuk feels like he's been handed a death sentence, cold sweat soaking his back. Hearing his name, Min-chi's eyes shift, recognizing the loser from downstairs. Their gazes lock, and Jae-hyuk wishes the ground would just swallow him whole. She sits, her presence weighing on him like a mountain. Remembering his mom's request to take care of her, Jae-hyuk lowers his head in despair. What can a useless wreck like him possibly do? A sudden, sharp prick on his backside sends Jae-hyuk leaping from his seat with a yelp, while Min-chi snickers mischievously behind him. He unfolds the crumpled note to find a cold warning. "Don't act like you know me, loser." Gritting his teeth, he swallows the humiliation and buries his head in his books. Kindness overrides fear. He secretly leaves a hand-drawn map on her desk, meticulously marking the best sandwich spots and the dangerous, wobbly stairs. But warmth is fleeting. The school bathroom transforms into a hell's cape as Jo Sangbom corners Jae-hyuk, counting down the beatings left to deliver. A heavy fist smashes into his face, exploding with pain. Instantly, Sangbom switches to a sickeningly sweet smile, patting his head. "Don't worry, I'm done." The fake kindness is more terrifying than the violence. Sangbom wraps an arm around his neck, whispering like an old friend, "Do me a favor. You're good at studying, right?" The gang erupts in laughter, mocking the genius who only knows books. Trapped in the center, Jae-hyuk stands, Like a lamb awaiting slaughter, his protests feeble. The trap snaps shut. Sangbom bares his fangs, his eyes filled with contempt. Make me cheat sheets for the exam. It's not a request, it's a command. Meeting Jae-yuk's shock, Sangbom twists the knife. Mom says if I pass, I can go abroad. So if you want me gone, you better work hard. Fear hesitates, but the thug in the red hat loses patience, screaming in his face, spit flying. Are you deaf? Will you do it or not? Another brutal blow. Jae-yuk screams and curls up on the floor, the searing pain shattering his thoughts, leaving only the instinct to survive. Sangbom squats down, observing the trembling Jae-yuk like a bug. He delivers the cold ultimatum one last time. Are you going to do it? Dignity shatters. Through tears and trembling lips, Jae-yuk chokes out his surrender. I'll do it. Inside, his soul bleeds. Even in victory, the bully strikes again. Lower your eyes, got it? Another fist flies, enforcing absolute dominance. Left alone in the hallway, blood dripping onto his collar, Jae-yuk clutches his face. Meaningless apologies tumble from his lips, desperate and desolate. Laughter echoes as Sangbom's gang walks away, discussing their easy future, leaving the broken figure kneeling on the floor like discarded trash. Tears mix with blood, blurring his vision. From the depths of agony, a desperate wish takes root. If only I could fight. The endless day finally fades as the sun sets. The sound of sizzling food in the kitchen offers a brief, mundane refuge from the day's scars. Go call Minchai for dinner. His mother's order sends Jae-yuk into a panic, his social anxiety momentarily eclipsing his physical pain. Heavy steps climb the stairs. He stands before her door, heart racing. A trembling hand knocks, and a cool voice answers from within, "Come in." Misinterpreting the command, Jae-yuk pushes the door open, heart fluttering with fantasy. Instead of a warm welcome, he frees as Minchai stands there in a towel. Fantasy crashes into terror as she screams in shock. Before he can explain, a kettle flies through the air. With a sickening thud, it connects with his skull. Jae-yuk hits the floor, pain exploding as Minchai fumes in the doorway. The world spins in dizzying spirals. Just as consciousness flickers back, a foot stomps onto his stomach, crushing the groan in his throat before it can escape. "Wake up, loser!" Minchai bellows from above. Jae-yuk jolts awake, heart pounding and sweat pouring, utterly confused by the sudden violence and the angry girl towering over him. Hands on her hips, Minchai's face burns with indignation. She reveals the blunt truth: he was knocked out by the coffee pot and drills him with accusations, looking at him like he's a total pervert. Terrified, Jae-yuk drops to his knees, stammering that his mother sent him. Blushing furiously, Minchai delivers a lethal threat: enter without warning again, and she'll tear him limb from limb. The scene shifts abruptly. At the dinner table, Minchai happily devours the stew, showering Jae-yuk's mother with compliments, while Jae-yuk sits in the corner, still paralyzed by the earlier chaos. Watching Minchai's sweet smile and polite praise, Jae-yuk shudders. Is this really the same violent demon? Or does she only reserve her cruelty for him? When his mother asks why she lives alone, Minchai shyly admits she's here to study. Jae-yuk's eyes nearly pop out of his head. The violent fighter girl is actually here for academics. Blushing, Minchai explains the stakes. Her grandfather promised to bequeath a building to any grandchild who enters a university in Seoul. That massive inheritance is her sole motivation. Hearing building inheritance, Indy fills the room. Minchai's eyes sparkle with determination as she admits she's an athlete with zero academic background, making this a fresh, albeit difficult, start. Sudden realization strikes the friend like a bolt of lightning. He slams the table, pointing excitedly at Jae-yuk. The perfect academic solution is sitting right there in front of him. The top student is right here! Jae-yuk shrinks back in embarrassment, while Minchai is absolutely floored. She stares in disbelief. This weakling she just beat up is actually an academic genius. Despite his title, Jae-yuk is mocked by his own family as a socially awkward fool. Dinner ends, and Minchai bows out politely, a calculating glint in her eyes as she leaves. Still puzzled by her dual personality, Jae-hyuk is startled by a cold voice behind him. "Hey, loser!" Minchai calls him out from the shadows, her tone suggesting the real conversation is about to begin. Footsteps echo in the heavy night air as they descend the stairs. Minchai stops in a corner, lighting a cigarette with practiced ease. The flickering flame illuminates her cold profile, creating a tense, noir atmosphere. Through the haze of smoke, Minchai looks at him with a smirk and casually drops a bomb. "Teach me how to study, Brainiac." Jae-hyuk freezes, unable to believe what he's hearing. "No!" Jae-hyuk refuses instantly. Desperate, Minchai yells and crouches down, trying to bargain with a share of her future building. But even the promise of wealth meets Jae-hyuk's stubborn resistance. "I hate thugs." Jae-hyuk finally speaks his truth, eyes cold with disgust. He turns and walks away, leaving Minchai alone in the dark stairwell, staring at his retreating back in silence. Standing above her, Jae-hyuk sneers with newfound arrogance, mocking her by offering to find her a girlfriend instead. His contempt is palpable, infuriating Minchai and freezing the air between them. In the dim stairwell, Jae-hyuk twists his suppressed frustration into vicious insults, mocking Minchai to scrape together a pathetic sense of superiority. Suppressing a moment of hesitation, he forces a provocative sneer and looks down, masking his unease with increasingly harsh words. But the view reveals real danger. In the shadows below, thugs surround Minchai, their lewd jeers cutting through the night air. The situation spirals as the thugs get physical. Panic strikes Jae-hyuk as he witnesses the scene, his trembling fingers fumbling to dial the police. Too late. Before the call connects, a heavy hand violently grips Minchai's wrist, cutting off her last route of escape. With a sickening thud, Minchai is shoved hard against the wall. Hiding in the shadows, Jae-hyuk gasps in sheer terror, his heart gripped by fear. In a flash, the tables turn. Minchai delivers a brutal knee strike, instantly silencing the thug and leaving him crumpled on the ground. Facing the enraged accomplices, Minchai doesn't flinch. Her steady stance leaves Jae-hyuk dumbfounded. It's the aura of a professional fighter. Fists fly, precise and deadly. Every strike lands with a crushing thud, smashing their arrogance into a bloody mess. Dust settles as she stands like a war god under the night sky, the defeated groaning beneath her feet, leaving only a suffocating silence. Jae-hyuk covers his mouth in disbelief. The last remaining thug stares back, his rage now tainted with deep, primal fear. The thug roars about his strength to save face, only to be crushed by Minchai's mid-air stomp, his pride turning instantly into a pained wail. All three down. Seeing that petite figure standing atop the pile of bodies, a traumatized Jae-hyuk instinctively tries to flee the scene. 3 guys in an instant? Jae-hyuk's mind goes blank. Meanwhile, Minchai thinks casually, other than fighting, studying is probably the only thing that challenges her. Jae-hyuk halts, trembling, finally recognizing the figure. Minchai turns, shaking her sore hand, and scolds him for being too cowardly to even call the cops. "What, do you practice?" Facing Jae-hyuk's trembling question, Minchai looks up and gives the answer that changes everything. "Martial arts." The word strikes Jae-hyuk like lightning, bringing back a flood of painful memories, the beatings, the humiliation stinging his very nerves. He clenches his fist until his nails dig into his palm. In this endless despair, he sees a lifeline. This might be his only chance to fight back. In the rainy night, the boy finally finds the courage to propose the deal that seals his fate. "I'll teach you to study. In return, teach me how to fight." Faced with Jae-hyuk's plea to teach me how to fight, Minchai's reaction is unexpected. She looks down from above, her eyes filled with disbelief and mockery. "Huh? Close combat? Smelling each other's sweat?" Minchai blushes instantly, imagining awkward scenarios, and yells in panic, "Who wants to do that with a wimp like you? Go to a gym." Shyness fades, replaced by icy contempt. "That's your problem." She grabs his collar coldly. "I don't make deals with losers." Jae-hyuk falls to his knees in despair. Late at night, Jae-hyuk tosses and turns. The fight replays in his mind her vicious knee strike, that terrifying destructive power, a strength he has never seen before. If I could just do that. His fist clenches in the dark, fear gradually replaced by longing. To stop being trampled on, this is his only chance. The morning calm is shattered by his mother's request. Give Min-chae a sandwich. Jae-hyuk stands before his roommate's door, heart pounding with instinctive fear of the volatile girl. Hearing come in, he pushes the door open, only to face the most socially awkward moment of his life. A barely dressed Min-chae and a scream erupt simultaneously, freezing the air. Drop it and get out. Amidst the chaos and scolding, a shaken Jae-hyuk is distracted by something on the desk. Is that a primary school textbook? The unbelievable truth lies before him. Apple, banana. The fresh handwriting reveals that the invincible fighter girl is struggling with first-grade English. What are you looking at? Storming out of the bathroom, Min-chae, consumed by shame and anger, pounces on him with murderous intent. Facing Min-chae's rage, a spark of survival instinct hits Jae-hyuk. Trembling, he raises a hand, recalling last night's rejected proposal. The tables seem to have turned. Without basics, no crammed school will take you. Jae-hyuk's words strike like an arrow. The door slams shut, but the truth clearly stings Min-chae's pride. Moments later, hurried footsteps echo in the hallway. Min-chae blocks his path, face flushed, eyes darting anxiously. Wait. I need to talk to you. I got rejected by 3 cram schools, because I'm at an elementary level. She buries her face in despair, finally dropping her pride. Fine, let's make a deal. Eyes lock, and the pact is sealed. You teach me study, I teach you fight. It's not just a trade, but the starting point of their road to redemption. However, the first night of tutoring is a disaster. She reads this as cigarettes and stares blankly at Bus. Jae-hyuk clutches his head, foreseeing a dark future. If studying is hopeless, let's start with fighting. Min-chae's aura shifts instantly, transforming from the idiot struggling with ABCs back to a cool tactical master. Know your enemy, win every battle. The so-called field trip turns out to be lifting her up to peek over a wall. You're too heavy. Jae-hyuk trembles below, while on the other side, the bully Jo Sangbom comes into view. Overexcited by the bully's conversation, Min-chae shifts, becoming the straw that breaks Jae-hyuk's back. With a loud crash, their reconnaissance mission makes a comical landing. Jae-hyuk stares at the dilapidated stairwell, confusion and unease written all over his face. Min-chae blows a smoke ring, her eyes full of disdain. Idiot! We're here to observe a real fight! Jae-hyuk is still complaining about being a pack mule when suddenly, loud footsteps approach. The excitement in Min-chae's eyes contrasts sharply with the fear in Jae-hyuk's pupils. The real beasts have arrived. Jae-hyuk pulls his hood down low, heart pounding, desperate not to be recognized. Here, the weak have no right to watch an unwritten rule of the jungle. The air freezes. The fight is about to erupt. In the center, Jo Sangbom's hypocritical smile is nauseating. 1 second he's offering a fake apology for a broken finger, the next, his violent fist tears through the air. The dull thud of fist meeting flesh is chilling. No fancy probing, just one-sided domination. Every strike from Sangbom carries the malice to destroy, sending blood flying instantly. The fight is over, but the brutality isn't. Amidst the crowd's gasps and jeers, Sangbom delivers a soccer kick straight to the fallen opponent's head, a cruelty that is suffocating to watch. Pleas for mercy only invite more insane torture. Sangbom laughs as he crushes the victim's fingers and even lifts a fire extinguisher. Witnessing this hellish scene, Jae-hyuk feels his very soul freeze. Under the night sky, Jae-hyuk collapses by a streetlight, cold sweat soaking his back. The images from before haunt him like a nightmare. Clutching his head, he feels utter despair and helplessness before absolute violence. Just 1 month! Min-chae's roar pierces the dead silence. She grabs Jae-hyuk by the collar, forcing him to face reality. There's no retreat, either drown in this fear or fight for a chance at life. Jae-hyuk looks at his hands, unable to stop the trembling. Reason tells him it's suicide, but Minchi's undeniable gaze ignites a faint yet frantic spark within him. I have nothing left to lose anyway. His fist clenches tight, nails digging into his palm. Betting everything is a loser, he decides to claw his way out of hell. 1 month later, the battle begins. Yet when the day finally arrives, fear washes over him again. In the classroom, Jae-hyuk turns pale, his mind going blank. Minchai stares coldly from behind, giving him no chance to flee. The exam room is silent, but turbulent underneath. Minchai quickly scribbles a note, her movements subtle and composed. This slip of paper will be the war horn, igniting this long-planned revenge. Jae-hyuk takes a deep breath, his gaze suddenly sharpening. He is no longer that submissive coward. Under Sangbom's puzzled stare, he pushes the note forward with a provocative smile. Let's fight, you piece of shit! The short phrase explodes like thunder. Sangbom looks up in shock, crashing into Jae-hyuk's murderous gaze. In this moment, the prey becomes the hunter. Rewind to 1 month ago. To possess the courage to declare war, Kim Jae-hyuk first had to survive a transformative hell training. The first lesson is absolute physical exhaustion. Jae-hyuk struggles up the stairs with Minchai on his back, his lungs burning, while the devil on his back complains he's too slow. This isn't training, it's slavery. Minchai treats him like a moving human chair, barking orders while playing on her phone. Jae-hyuk's wails are mercilessly drowned out by her mockery. Not just physical torture, but gastric suffering too. Minchai forces him to gorge himself to gain weight. The mountain of spicy rice cakes becomes Jae-hyuk's new nightmare. To get strong, eat it. What started as a lunch date ended with Minchai devouring everything and using him as a human taxi. Just when Jae-hyuk thought it was over, a pile of combat gear on the roof signaled that the real hell was just beginning. Facing the pile of gear, Minchai smirked, revealing it was from a busted old friend. Watching Jae-hyuk instantly drift into a ridiculous fantasy about a well-endowed intellectual girl, Minchai teased with a playful grin. So that's your type? The fantasy shattered instantly. Minchi's roar was followed by a thunderous strike, her fist cutting through the air. Before Jae-hyuk could react, her cold knuckles hovered before his eyes, a stark reminder that every second now was a fight for survival. Do it or get lost. Facing Minchi's ultimatum, a terrified Jae-hyuk was forced to accept this impossible mission. To survive, he had to drill this combo into his bones for 3 weeks, even if it killed him. Sunrise to sunset, sweat soaked his clothes. From morning punches to late-night exhaustion, Jae-hyuk repeated the dull motions on the roof. Every swing of his arm, every heavy breath, was slowly forging his fragile will. 2 weeks of hell passed quietly, transforming the boy who could barely stand. Under the sunset, his movements were no longer sloppy, his eyes held a new sharpness, and even Minchai offered a rare word of validation. Just as he improved, Minchai threw a new challenge to tackle. Seeing Jae-hyuk innocently think of soccer slides, Minchai sighed in frustration. The only way to make this novice understand real combat was through physical pain. Try to push me down. Minchai stood provocatively. Jae-hyuk charged with all his might, only to feel like he hit a rooted iron tree. The massive recoil sent him flying, while the seemingly slender girl didn't budge an inch. The pain of a bloody nose was a wake-up call. Brute force was useless. Now roles reversed. Seeing the predator look in Minchi's eyes, Jae-hyuk cowered behind the pad, feeling an unprecedented pressure. She was serious this time. This was a true test of human limits. Push-ups with her on his back, princess carry squats, weighted stair runs. Every muscle screamed, every tremor tested his physical breaking point, reshaping him through this grueling, almost humiliating training. Combat is the cruelest teacher. Under the evening glow, the dull thud of gloves on flesh echoed repeatedly. Jae-hyuk fell and rose again and again, Minchi's disdain slowly replaced by surprise. This wimp was tougher than he looked. In exchange, at the desk by night, Jae-hyuk became Minchi's strict tutor. A month passed, the trade of brains for brawn creating a subtle bond. Finally, the moment arrived. Jae-hyuk walked toward his destined opponent. The noise of the crowd was close. Though nauseous with nerves, remembering Minchi's training, Jaehyuk took a deep breath, his gaze hardening. The submissive honor student was gone, replaced by a warrior ready for war. The night before the showdown, the air felt frozen. Facing that suffocatingly strong enemy, Jaehyuk's heart pounded wildly, fear rising like a tide. But with no retreat left, he had to brace himself to face this unknown fate. Malicious whispers filled the air, the opponent's oppressive back looming like a mountain. "Go win, loser," the familiar voice echoed in his mind. Swallowing his fear, Jaehyuk stepped onto the battlefield amidst his deafening heartbeat. Flashback to last night, when fear made him tremble all over. Minchi watched coldly, her disdain hurting more than punches. "If you're so scared, take off your shirt." Her unquestionable command pierced through the cold night air. The shirt came off, revealing the solid physique forged by 2 months of hell. Minchi pointed at his abs, her tone sharp. "Your body is ready. If you still lose, it's because you're a mental coward." In this suffocating standoff, Minchi suddenly blushed and threw down the final chip. "If you win, I won't call you loser anymore. I'll call you by your name." This unexpected bet made Jaehyuk gulp, igniting a strange spark within him. It wasn't just a lighter, it was the strength of a clenched fist. Realizing it was a freebie from a hostess bar, Jaehyuk laughed nervously. But gripping the cold metal, feeling the sweat in his palm, he finally understood. This was his weapon, this was his resolve. Heart pounding like thunder, fear nearly suffocates him. Echoing Lee Minchi's taunts and encouragement, Jaehyuk grits his teeth, and with a heavy stomp, forces his trembling body toward the battlefield. Facing Jo Sangbom's scornful laughter and the crowd's jeering, Jaehyuk's body trembles instinctively, but he suppresses the urge to flee, swallowing his fear whole. Countless phone cameras point at him, anticipating a humiliating spectacle. Facing Jo Sangbom's arrogant provocation, Jaehyuk no longer retreats, anger in his eyes slowly overpowering his cowardice. Don't lose momentum. Recalling his training, though drenched in cold sweat, Jaehyuk stares down his opponent, shouting his vow of double payback with a trembling yet firm voice. Jo Sangbom's fist flies in with a sneer, shockingly fast. Jaehyuk braces for the impact, taking the hit. Though shaken, his gaze remains focused. This is just the beginning. Reality is far crueler than training. Sangbom's heavy punches ruthlessly shatter his defense. Jaehyuk gasps in pain, the agony in his arms a stark reminder of the immense physical gap between them. A storm of fists rains down, blurring Jaehyuk's consciousness. Jo Sangbom grins savagely as he seals his fate, each blow trampling on his last shreds of dignity. In the face of absolute violence, his will seems to crumble. Jaehyuk falls to his knees, and under the cold gaze of the onlookers, trembles as he whimpers a plea for mercy. Seeing his prey cry, Sangbom feigns mercy, only to reveal his demonic fangs a second later. A vicious kick slams into Jaehyuk's face, shattering the fake pity into pieces. Blood mixes with tears, and despair drowns him like a tidal wave. Even after hellish training, is his fate still to be trampled like trash? Just as his mind teeters on the abyss, Lee Minchi's icy voice strikes like lightning. The most important thing in a fight is mental strength. Lose that, and it's all over. The memory of her choking him snaps him back, the suffocation awakening his survival instinct. If you're cornered, grab him. Grab him even if it kills you. His eyes shift instantly from fear to resolve. Braving the rain of fists, Jaehyuk lunges forward like a madman. Even if he dies, he must execute that move, the clinch. To win, do whatever it takes. Jaehyuk opens his mouth and bites down hard on Sangbom's ear. A blood-curdling scream pierces the air. In this moment, he too becomes a beast. The agony exposes a fatal opening in Sangbom. Seizing the chance, Jaehyuk unleashes his pent-up power. 1. A heavy punch lands. 2. The combo connects. The hit shocks the entire crowd. The untouchable bully stumbles back. Jaehyuk roars his declaration of war, his suppressed rage finally igniting the signal fire of his counterattack. The standard 1-2 combo explodes again, the thud of fist meeting flesh silencing all doubters. The contempt in Sangbom's eyes finally turns to shock and panic. But it's not enough. The size difference remains. Jae-hyuk doesn't get greedy with punches but coldly shifts tactics, initiating the killer move Lee Min-chae prepared for him. Double leg takedown. He dives like a cheetah, wrapping the legs and using his entire body weight to flip the giant. As the world spins, the roles of hunter and prey are completely reversed. The special training begins. Min-chae shows no mercy, delivering a brutal shoulder charge to the groin. Agony surges through Jae-hyuk instantly, dropping him before he can even process the pain. Jae-hyuk questions the dirty tactic, but Min-chae's gaze is cold. Against a heavier opponent, this is the only law of survival and the target is none other than the brutal Jo Sangbom. The fight erupts. Capitalizing on Sangbom's distraction, Jae-hyuk's eyes flash with resolve. Instinct takes over as he drives his shoulder hard into his opponent's groin. With a dull thud, the arrogant bully flies back like a broken kite, crashing violently into the wall. A gasp of horror ripples through the crowd, unable to believe their eyes. Jae-hyuk doesn't stop. Years of suppressed rage explode as he mounts Sangbom, raining down punches and screaming at the tormentor who ruined his peaceful life. "It's not over yet!" Jae-hyuk roars, delivering another heady kick. Seeing the once mighty Sangbom groaning beneath his feet, the tables have completely turned. Guillotine choke. Jae-hyuk locks it in tight, coldly counting down the seconds. Suffocating desperation grips Sangbom as he struggles frantically under the shadow of defeat. Desperate, Sangbom burns Jae-hyuk's arm with a lighter. The searing pain breaks the hold, and Sangbom seizes the moment to reverse the position. The chaos intensifies. Though pinned and in pain, Jae-hyuk's mind is crystal clear. Amidst the scramble, Min-chae's lesson flashes like lightning strike the chin. It's the only way to win. "Aim for the jaw!" Jae-hyuk screams internally, channeling every ounce of strength into one point. This isn't a weak resistance. It's a thunderous strike to shatter his fear. Time freezes at the moment of impact. Sangbom's face distorts under the massive force. Flying teeth and blood announce the brutal end of the bully's reign. The dust settles. Staring at the fallen giant, Jae-hyuk gasps for air, sweat dripping down his face. A deathly silence hangs before erupting into disbelief. Min-chae walks away satisfied, but Jae-hyuk dares not linger. Fearing retaliation from the gang, he runs like a madman, the joy of victory mixed with the instinct to survive. Safe at last, Jae-hyuk screams at the sky, celebrating his hard-fought win. Yet, behind this fleeting ecstasy, a new shadow seems to be breeding in the corners of the city. Meanwhile, a massive fighter exhales smoke. Hong Dae-bong, a far more dangerous monster, has already locked his greedy gaze on the newly victorious prey. This fight was just the beginning. In this violent world, whether it's hidden masterminds or unknown challenges, everything is waiting for Kim Jae-hyuk to face. Back at school, the calm is eerie. Sangbom's silence makes Jae-hyuk both relieved and anxious. He wipes away cold sweat, trying to find safety in the eye of the storm. Of course, calm doesn't apply to Min-chae. A paper ball flies in, and Jae-hyuk realizes with a sigh, he escaped a bully only to become the bread shuttle for his violent tutor. Just as Jae-hyuk comforts himself, two menacing figures block his path. "Did you beat Sangbom?" The question strikes like thunder, instantly shattering his fragile sense of luck. The corridor transforms into an interrogation room as upperclassmen surround Jae-hyuk. "Was it you who beat Jo Sangbom?" The roar deafens him, causing his phone to slip from his trembling hands, panic seizing his chest. Before he can catch his breath, a burly student leans in with a mocking sneer. "Look at you now, pal!" Rumors spread like a virus. Jae-hyuk clutches his head, desperate to escape this suffocating attention. He tries to slip away, only to be hailed as a hero by a group of outcasts, their absurd cheers filling the air. But this fleeting glory is instantly shattered by the angry shouts of approaching bullies, plunging him back into chaos. "I'm going to destroy that loser who beat Jo Sangbom." The overheard threat stabs at his heart. Staring at a classmate feigning friendship, Jae-hyuk sinks into paranoia. Is this the price of victory? Under the scorching rooftop sun, Lee Min-chai casually eats a sandwich while sitting on Jae-hyuk's back. It's weight training. Quit whining. Jae-hyuk's arms tremble as he struggles under her demonic regimen. Why is life messy after winning? To his breakdown, Min-chai responds with a cold stare. Idiot, people always challenge the victor. Do you want to go back to being beaten, or will you endure? Physical torture ends, only for mental judgment to begin. As night falls, Min-chai kicks aside the clutter and imperiously announces study time. The roles reverse now, he is the teacher. Jae-hyuk's reality crumbles upon seeing her single-digit grades. This is your level? They scream at each other, their roars nearly blowing the roof off, all previous dignity forgotten. Do you want me to die? Just as the argument peaks, his mother enters. Min-chai transforms instantly, accepting apples with an angelic smile, leaving Jae-hyuk dumbfounded by her acting skills. The moment the door clicks shut, the gentle facade shatters with a foot slamming onto the desk. Min-chai reveals her true, demonic nature. Do you know how to peel apples? Jae-hyuk cowers, terrified once more. Deep into the night, boring math formulas have Min-chai yawning incessantly. Seeing her clueless expression, Jae-hyuk sighs in defeat. This tutoring is harder than fighting. His mind drifts back to that dark alley. Amid swirling smoke, Min-chai made a promise. If you win, I'll stop calling you a loser and use your real name. It was the moment their bond deepened. In his memory, she smiles sincerely. Congratulations on winning, Kim Jae-young. Even though she got the name wrong, her acknowledgement hits Jae-hyuk like a lightning bolt, bringing tears to his eyes. It's Kim Jae-hyuk. Snapping back from memory, he walks into class only to find a mountain of a man occupying his seat. That ominous silhouette signals the arrival of a new storm. The massive student leans in, sniffing Jae-hyuk like a predator, his eyes full of mockery. So if I beat you, does that mean I've beaten Jo Sangbom? The pressure is suffocating. We have no reason to fight. Jae-hyuk tries to reason, but is cut off by a vicious slap. The bully grins, his face twisted in malice. Reasons can be created, kid. Useless trash. With a deafening boom, a massive fist smashes into Jae-hyuk's face. Violence needs no reason, only an outlet. The world spins as Jae-hyuk crashes to the floor, curled up in agony. Looking up at the invincible giant, despair drowns him once again. How do I beat a monster like this? Hong Daebong struts away, boasting about killing two birds with one stone, leaving Jae-hyuk collapsed on the cold floor. Despair floods in as he stares blankly, muttering, "Is this where the resistance ends?" The nightmare continues the next day. Hong Daebong laughs manically in the hallway, trampling Jae-hyuk underfoot as his slave. Jae-hyuk grits his teeth in helpless rage as his dignity is crushed. The abuse escalates to sadism as Daebong forces a spider into the mouth of the insect-phobic Jae-hyuk. The sound of slaps mixes with mocking laughter, a cruel display of absolute dominance. When Jae-hyuk breaks down and asks, "Why?" Daebong simply pinches his face and gives a chilling answer. Because it's fun. For a predator, tormenting the weak requires no justification. Under the twilight, Jae-hyuk looks at his scarred hands, tears streaming down his face. He realizes with tragedy that defeating one bully only invited a more brutal one. The hell remains unchanged. Night falls, but even in the safety of his home, Jae-hyuk remains consumed by the day's terror. He is distracted during Minchi's lesson, the shadow of the giant bully lingering over him. In his despair, Jae-hyuk confesses his fear to Min-chai, convinced he can't beat that pig. Min-chai mercilessly agrees. Obviously you can't beat him, you idiot. But then, Min-chai shifts tone. That doesn't mean there's no way. These words act as a lifeline, instantly igniting Jae-hyuk's will to survive as he desperately begs for the answer. Min-chai makes the mysterious call. Hearing it's a busted friend, Jae-hyuk's otaku instincts kick in, plunging him into a moment of awkward, comedic fantasy. The fantasy shatters instantly as Min-chai forces the phone into his hands. Overcome by social anxiety and nerves, Jae-hyuk is terrified and tries desperately to refuse. On the other end, Hong-sera mercilessly mocks his weakness, making Jae-hyuk so nervous he nearly vomits. After the chaotic call, a mysterious delivery box finally arrives. Min-chae points to the box, calling it the key to victory. As the box opens, time flashes forward 3 weeks. Jae-hyuk stands before Hong Dae-bong again, his eyes completely changed. Facing the manic laughter of Hong Dae-bong and the crowd, Jae-hyuk stands his ground wearing the ridiculous giant red gloves. This seemingly comical gear is his only bet. Despite looking ridiculous, Jae-hyuk assumes a proper fighting stance. His eyes burn with determination, screaming internally, "This is my only weapon to defeat that pig." The camera cuts back to 3 weeks ago, that destiny-defining moment. Even Min-chae looked shocked when she first saw the massive gloves. On the rooftop, Jae-hyuk stares at the exaggerated red gloves, his face screaming, "Are you kidding me?" But under Min-chae's intimidation and taunts, he forces himself to put them on. The special training begins, and Min-chae lifts a metal baseball bat. Jae-hyuk screams in terror at the lethal weapon. This isn't training, it's attempted murder. With a loud bang, Jae-hyuk is sent flying, gloves and all. Min-chae coldly announces the start of hell training. Either strengthen your legs to withstand the impact, or die trying. With the command, the gates to special training hell fling open. From humiliating duck walks to the relentless invisible chair even in the bathroom, Jae-hyuk's muscles scream in agony as his dignity evaporates with his sweat. Even Min-chae's smoke breaks become torture, turning Jae-hyuk into a trembling human chair until his knees finally give out. Amidst this humiliation and exhaustion, 2 weeks pass, marking the eve of his transformation. Training escalates into a survival game. Facing the swinging baseball bat, Jae-hyuk no longer cowers but braces for impact. The dull thud confirms that his former weakness is being forged into steely resolve. If you can block this, you can win. Min-chae's validation is his adrenaline. Standing amidst the noisy crowd, Jae-hyuk dons the red gloves, facing the massive beast not with fear, but with battle-ready focus. The beast's fist strikes like a cannonball, shaking the very air. Though Jae-hyuk stumbles back, arms screaming in pain, a spark of ecstasy ignites within. He blocked it. The bone-crushing force didn't break him. The crowd's mockery silences instantly, replaced by gasps of disbelief. Seeing Jae-hyuk standing tall, Hong Dae-bong's face freezes. Jae-hyuk smirks, delivering a cold taunt. "Let's stick to the script, loser." Enraged, the beast loses control, unleashing a torrential rain of punches. Jae-hyuk turtles up, standing firm, like a rock in a stormy sea. Amidst the suffocating pressure, he waits for that one moment he practiced 1,000 times. Just last 30 seconds. Min-chae's voice echoes in his mind, the survival rule earned through hell. Every second feels like a century as Jae-hyuk counts down internally, sweat blurring his vision. Now! The opponent's frantic panting betrays his exhaustion. Jae-hyuk's pupils constrict, and the power he held back explodes instantly. Instead of retreating, he dashes forward like a bullet straight into his guard. Boom dash! Exploiting the sluggish opening, Jae-hyuk's forehead smashes into his opponent's face. The sickening crunch of bone echoes, blood splatters, a primal, brutal counterattack from the weak against the strong. Promotional page. A brief pause to catch breath before the next chapter's climax. Dash, rush, headbutt. The sequence flows perfectly. Jae-hyuk executes the tactic flawlessly, the strike proving the truth. A precise hit to the jaw will bring down even the biggest giant. Victory. Seeing his opponent's eyes roll back, Jae-hyuk's shout of triumph turns into panic. The massive, unconscious body loses balance and falls straight toward him. The heavy body crushes him like a mountain, suffocating Jae-hyuk instantly. Worse, the pain wakes the beast. Hong Dae-bong regains consciousness mid-fall. Face to face, the situation reverses in a terrifying heartbeat. The finishing move has become a trap. Pinned underneath, Jae-hyuk can only watch in despair as fists rain down. The crowd's mockery returns, until a sudden hand interrupts the impending doom. The crowd parts as a silver-haired boy enters with a playful smirk. Han Philip, a predator at the top of the food chain, watches the bloody struggle with amusement, treating it all as mere entertainment. How fun, he's already mounted, Philip comments excitedly, while Daniel looks on with disgust. To them, this fight for dignity is nothing more than a crude show for a boring afternoon. The brutality escalates. Hong Daebong rains down wild punches, determined to crush the bug beneath him. The chilling sound of impact disturbs even the onlookers, as Jae-yuk's consciousness fades under the atrocity. "What are you doing? Fight back." Minchi's scream explodes in his mind, but can't stop the physical pain. In this desperate strait, Jae-yuk recalls a tutorial video how do you survive when pinned by a monster. While watching the brutal match, Jae-yuk sweats in terror at the sight of the pig-like opponent. Minchi coldly shatters his hope. Once pinned by that weight, it's a death sentence. Grasping at a straw of hope, training begins immediately. Minchi's command to get on top triggers Jae-yuk's embarrassment, but she sharply snaps him back to reality. This is life or death jiu-jitsu. The envisioned scene is filled with blood and brutality, manifesting Hong Daebong's law of survival of the fittest. Before absolute violence, the cries of the weak are utterly pale and futile. The words "loser's destiny" pierce his heart like a blade, causing Jae-yuk's pupils to constrict. Screw destiny. Back in the living room, he absorbs every escape detail, igniting the spark of resistance. Theory transforms into instinct. On the dojo floor, the body twists like a serpent bridge, shrimp, and slide. The seemingly inescapable hold is instantly shattered by a perfect hip escape. Back in the ring, the crowd gasps in amazement. Facing those heavy fists, Jae-yuk knows a head-on clash is futile. Gritting his teeth, he dashes like the wind, seeking the sole opening for a counter. Here's the chance. A left jab to test, followed by a straight right like a cannonball. The solid impact twists Hong Daebong's face in agony, blood splatters, and skepticism turns into shock. Just as Jae-yuk presses his advantage, the tide turns. Hong Daebong unleashes terrifying strength, locking him in a bear hug from behind like a steel trap, enveloping him in suffocating oppression. The situation worsens as Hong Daebong pulls out massive custom gloves, like a demon donning armor. Watching the figure burning with rage, the calm in Jae-yuk's eyes is replaced by terror. It's truly over. The story halts at the peak of tension, but this is merely the prelude to a greater storm, with more exciting works waiting to be discovered. Right now, the massive gloves press down on Jae-yuk's neck like a crushing mountain. Hong Daebong's roar, accompanied by a fiery aura, elicits terrified screams from bystanders, bringing a wave of despair. Impossible to block. A frenzied strike explodes with devastating power, sending Jae-yuk flying like a kite with a cut string, crashing heavily to the ground before disbelief-filled eyes. The agony nearly causes him to black out, but embarrassment from an accidental exposure hits first. Amidst chaos and shame, Jae-yuk staggers to his feet, the flame of defiance in his eyes burning even brighter. Facing Hong Daebong's despair-inducing strength, Jae-yuk forces himself to calm down. Since he cannot match the power, he will counter with bare-handed tactics. Taking a deep breath, he assumes a fighting stance. The moment he throws a punch, an unprecedented lightness surges through him. Minchi's hellish training reveals its true purpose. The weights he wore daily have silently transformed him. The fist that was once too fast to see now appears in slow motion. Jae-yuk sidesteps the fatal blow, fear instantly replaced by ecstasy. I can dodge it. If I can dodge, I can counter. Like an awakened beast, Jae-yuk unleashes a flurry of lefts and rights, raining punches on his opponent's face with a speed that leaves the crowd dumbfounded. However, reality is harsh. Despite the solid hits, Hong Daebong only bleeds slightly. His thick layer of fat acts as natural armor, ruthlessly mocking Jae-yuk's lack of power despite his speed. In this moment of despair, Minchi's teachings echo in his mind. Against a meat shield protected by fat, normal attacks are meaningless. The sunset training pointed to the only chance aim for that absolute weak point. Minchi's lesson echoes strike where there's no fat. Jae-yuk locks onto the knee, unleashing a precise kick that snaps through the air. The brute roars and swings wildly, hitting nothing but air. Jae-hyuk dodges calmly, exploiting the opening to land a jab-low kick combo right back on that damaged knee. Bam! Bam! Every kick chisels into the same wound. Agony shatters the opponent's defense, turning his massive frame into a trembling mess of fear. Mockery from the crowd stings like needles as the brute struggles with his gloves. But Jae-hyuk knows it's over now. The mere feint of a kick sends the giant recoil in terror. As the opponent frantically guards his knee, Jae-hyuk's gaze turns icy. Minchi's image overlaps with reality, coldly pointing out the fatal weak point to end this, the solar plexus. The fist tears through the air, smashing into the opponent's face. Blood sprays as the massive impact twists his features into a silent scream of agony. As night deepens, like a lone wolf watching from the shadows, the shockwaves of this battle still vibrate through the air. Memories flood back, Minchi's training vivid and clear. Not just brute force, but extreme precision aiming for the nerve center that brings any giant to their knees. Right here, watching his opponent kneel, Jae-hyuk's clenched fist still tingles from the impact, sweat dripping as his resolve hardens. It's not over. Jae-hyuk launches into the air, driving a savage knee straight into the jaw. The crack of bone on bone explodes in the night, ending all doubt. The massive body spins through the air like a broken kite before crashing heavily to the ground. Dust settles over the deathly silence and the motionless figure. I won? Jae-hyuk stares at his hands in disbelief. The air freezes before erupting into commotion, while in the distance, a silver-haired boy lets out a meaningful, chilling laugh. While the crowd reels from Hong Daebong's defeat, Han Philip is already bored. To him, this upset is just a minor blip in his schedule. The real meeting is just beginning. Just as some scoff at the victory, our hero makes the smartest move possible, running away. Amidst cheers for the king of losers, Jae-hyuk scrambles out, terrified of retaliation. The scene burns into a girl's memory, her cheeks flushing with excitement. But the scene shifts. The setting sun falls on the gym storage room, hiding the school's darkest secrets behind its door. Smoke fills the dim room where tattooed thugs discuss illicit deals. Restlessness hangs in the air. The leader of Invincible is late, and the oppressive weight is suffocating. Crisp footsteps cut through the noise. Han Philip enters in a sharp suit, wearing a flawless smile that radiates absolute control over the room. Heard there's a promising freshman, Daniel, the number 2, says calmly, closing his book. Han Philip narrows his eyes. The seemingly weak honor student has piqued the predator's interest. Should we recruit him? The suggestion widens Han Philip's smile. He doesn't care who won or lost. He only cares that this new prey looks entertaining. In the shadows, Philip Han spins a web of intrigue, deciding to merely observe his prey's growth for now. Days later, the scene shifts to a warm room where Lee Min-chai sighs heavily, defeated by math problems, a deceptively calm moment before the storm. Jae-hyuk, however, can't focus, tearing at his hair in frustration. When Min-chai asks why, he trembles, recalling the fight 3 days ago. The viral video of him defeating Hong Daebong is racking up likes and shredding his nerves. The school has turned into a coliseum, with every eye fixed on him, drawing even delinquents from other schools. Faced with endless challenges, Jae-hyuk clutches his head in panic. He never wanted this honor, only peace. Why won't it end? Min-chai pierces through Jae-hyuk's breakdown with the cold truth because he still looks like a victim. The words strike hard, and back home, he tremblingly asks the core question, how do I stop being prey? Minchi's answer lands with the weight of steel, become strong enough to crush them with an overwhelming victory next time. Hearing this, the fear in Jae-hyuk's eyes fades, replaced by a sharp, resolute glint. Just as he steels himself, wondering who his next opponent might be, a mocking voice shatters the silence. Kwok Han-sol, an orange-haired boy, appears with a brazen smile, his flippant greeting causing Jae-hyuk's heart to seize. The figure before him radiates suffocating oppression, like a beast toying with its prey. Jae-hyuk's pupils dilate, cold sweat tracing his temple, as primal fear chokes him in the face of this stranger. Flashback to a reckless night. Kwok Han-sol tears through the streets in a stolen Mercedes. Cigarette dangling from his lips, he mocks his bankrupt father's vanity, his eyes full of contempt for the rules. The engine roars as the speedometer hits 200, the air inside the car practically igniting. Facing his friend's doubts about the transfer, Han-sol sneers, claiming to be number 2 at his old school, reveling in a control he shouldn't possess. Fighting is for idiots. Facing his friend's mockery, Han-sol reveals a chilling smile. He has mastered the art of manipulation, convinced that projecting the aura of a predator is enough to rule this dog-eat-dog world. His gaze turns beastly and ravenous, visions of the hunt filling his mind. He doesn't need just any prey, he needs a specific herbivore to devour alive, cementing his status. It must be a nutritious loser, one that will boost my fame. Despite only 6 months of boxing experience, his arrogance in viewing people as mere meals is enough to mask his lack of skill. Even as his friend laughs hysterically, the smile on Hansel's face remains fixed. Amidst the blurring city lights, his gaze pierces the night, seemingly locking onto his unsuspecting target. Rumors swirl about the lucky guy who defeated Zhou Sangbom and Hong Daebong. Han-sol licks his lips. A nobody who got famous on luck is the perfect prey, custom-made for him. The sound of dragging feet cuts through the corridor's noise as Han-sol makes his theatrical entrance. Under everyone's gaze, he greets the lucky guy with exaggerated flair, basking in the attention of the whispering crowd. Han-sol extends a hand with a beaming smile, claiming he needs a friend. Jae-hyuk freezes, alarm bells ringing behind this transfer student's friendly facade hides something that chills him to the bone. I was impressed. It was just like a movie. Hansel's tone shifts to earnest praise, lauding the turnaround victory. This sudden validation leaves Jae-hyuk, used to being belittled, wide-eyed in disbelief. Growing up, no one besides his mom had ever called him cool. Tears instantly well up in Jae-hyuk's eyes. The long-awaited sense of dignity crumbles his defenses, and he excitedly gives his name. I'm Kim Jae-hyuk. Their hands clasp tightly, and Jae-hyuk beams, basking in the warmth of the long-lost word friend. He remains oblivious that as Han-sol turns to wave goodbye, the smile twists the prey has taken the bait. In the shadows, Kwok Han-sol smirks maliciously, mocking Jae-hyuk's naivety while plotting his downfall. Meanwhile, oblivious to the danger, Jae-hyuk patiently guides Min-chai through geometry problems under the warm light of the living room. Distracted by a fatigue, Jae-hyuk recalls Kwok Han-sol's offer of friendship, feeling a rare warmth in his chest. He blushingly asks Min-chai for her definition of a friend, only to be snapped at for talking nonsense during study time. Jae-hyuk questions Min-chai's lack of social life, but she dismisses friendship as a waste of time. However, her cool facade shatters instantly when Jae-hyuk casually mentions that her friend is visiting today, leaving her in utter disbelief. The sudden doorbell rings like an alarm, sending Jae-hyuk into a panic as he recalls Min-chai's description of her well-endowed friend. Urged by Min-chai, he stumbles toward the door, his heart pounding in his throat with a mix of fear and anticipation. As his hand touches the doorknob, Jae-hyuk's imagination runs wild, sweat pouring down his face. With his heart beating like a drum, his eyes widen in terror, as if a monster, not a guest, awaits behind the door. Before the door even opens, Jae-hyuk's mind is consumed by Min-chai's blunt description of the friend with big boobs. The words echo like a spell, turning his anticipation into sheer panic as cold sweat soaks his back. The door swings open to reveal Sarah Hong, a blonde girl bursting with energy. She immediately erupts into boisterous laughter, pointing at Jae-hyuk's glasses and mocking him as a loser and otaku, causing him to flush with anger and protest her rudeness. Ignoring Jae-hyuk's indignation, Sarah grabs Min-chai in a tight bear hug, loudly discussing intimate changes in their bodies. Noticing Jae-hyuk's awkwardness, she mischievously turns the spotlight on him, teasing him about his reaction and filling the room with an atmosphere of hilarious discomfort. Want to touch? Sarah drops a bombshell joke that nearly stops Jae-hyuk's heart. Relishing his terrified reaction, she bursts into laughter before grabbing him in a suffocating bear hug from behind, leaving him no room to escape. The hug instantly transforms into a submission hold. Sarah expertly executes a triangle choke, pinning Jae-hyuk against the wall. Crushed by her strength, Jae-hyuk turns purple and taps out desperately, earning nothing but Sarah's amused laughter. When Jae-hyuk opens his eyes, he finds himself on the floor with a foot on his chest. He had passed out from the choke. After the chaos, the three sit down for dinner, where a defeated Jae-hyuk meekly eats, sandwiched between the two dominant girls. Upon learning that Jae-hyuk's mother is away for 2 days, Sarah's eyes light up with mischief. Like a magician, she reveals a carton of soju, announcing it as the night's main event, completely ignoring Jae-hyuk's jaw-dropping shock. Jae-hyuk's protests about being high schoolers are quickly drowned out by clinking glasses. Hours later, reason has fled, and the living room is a disaster zone. Dizzy and disoriented, Jae-hyuk looks over the two girls passed out in chaotic heaps. Clinging to his last shred of sobriety, Jae-hyuk tries to help the half-naked, intoxicated Min-chae onto the bed. Suddenly, a noise from behind startles him. As he turns in panic, he loses his balance and crashes down with a loud thud. A hangover headache greets the morning sun, but Jae-hyuk is paralyzed by something far worse. He is sandwiched tightly between Min-chae and Sarah in bed. The warmth of their bodies and the sound of their breathing send his heart into a frantic, terrified rhythm. How did this happen? Jae-hyuk screams internally. He tries to extricate himself, but he's pinned like a body pillow between the sleeping girls. Just as he prays for them to roll over, the soft sensation against his arms makes his mind go completely blank. The nightmare begins as Sarah wakes up. After a moment of confusion, she erupts in fury, kicking Jae-hyuk off the bed without hesitation. Accused of being a pervert, the sprawled-out Jae-hyuk can only stammer apologies in the chaos. The embarrassment lingers as Sarah teases him, but over hangover ramen, the mood shifts. Upon learning Jae-hyuk studies martial arts, Sarah's eyes gleam with a warrior spirit, and she issues a direct challenge. Jae-hyuk trembles. He's never fought anyone besides Min-chae, and Sarah looks terrifyingly capable. Facing Sarah's overwhelming aura, Jae-hyuk wants to test his training, but cold sweat betrays his lingering fear. Before he can process her lack of defense, a heavy punch explodes right in front of his eyes, filling his vision with terror. Sarah laughs heartily, her effortless demeanor stinging Jae-hyuk's pride. She doesn't see this as a fair fight at all. Back on the training ground, Jae-hyuk is completely overwhelmed, scrambling desperately to escape Sarah's storm-like offensive. Sarah doubles over with laughter at his terror, leaving Jae-hyuk feeling utterly helpless amidst this hellish practical joke. Refusing to give up, Jae-hyuk launches a counterattack, but Sarah blocks every punch with frustrating ease, like an iron wall. If he can't reach, he'll dive in. Gritting his teeth, Jae-hyuk dashes forward, betting everything on a decisive right straight. But darkness claims his vision instantly. Before he can process the hit, a dizzying vertigo swallows him whole. Just as Jae-hyuk is about to crumble from Sarah's smelly foot jokes, Min-chae steps in and coldly points out the secret. She's a southpaw. These simple words strike like lightning, and Jae-hyuk finally realizes the awkward distance came from her stance. Like magnets repelling, the southpaw stance naturally extends the range against a right-hander, explaining his constant misses. Recalling that sudden counter, Jae-hyuk shudders. This is the terrifying pressure imposed by a counter-specialist, left-hander. But Sarah isn't done yet. Seeing her eager, almost predatory smile, Jae-hyuk screams internally, "Please, no more." Days later in the hallway, the vibe shifts. Transfer student Kwak Han-sol walks casually, but his eyes lock onto his prey like a viper. The basketball slams into Jae-hyuk's head. Han-sol feigns a surprised apology, masking the subtle mockery in his eyes. Offering snacks and a friendly invite to a PC cafe, his overwhelming friendliness leaves Jae-hyuk unsure how to refuse. Leaving the pushover behind, Han-sol reveals his true colors, targeting the more useful characters down the hall. He approaches the thugs without fear, introducing himself with a mix of confidence and craziness that instantly commands the room. To climb the ranks fast, he slyly lies that Jae-hyuk is his lackey, his malicious laughter echoing as the deceit takes root. The story unfolds with vibrant promotional art, heralding a legend of growth and battle in a world where strength reigns supreme. Meanwhile, shadowy conversations flow among men in suits. In the school cafeteria, Kwok Han-sol boasts to his peers about taming Jae-hyuk, his laughter dripping with malicious superiority. To prove his dominance to doubting peers, Han-sol abruptly stands up. With a mocking grin, he strides toward the solitary Jae-hyuk, setting the stage for a calculated humiliation. The tray flips, dumping soup and scraps over Jae-hyuk's head. Han-sol feigns shock and apologizes, but beneath the poor acting lies nothing but nauseating hypocrisy and bullying. Whispers from the crowd prick like needles as Han-sol and his friends laugh from afar. Jae-hyuk silently retreats to the restroom, his back heavy with isolation. Cold water scrubs away the stains, but cannot cleanse the humiliation. Jae-hyuk tries to numb himself with the lie that he is a friend, ultimately swallowing the bitterness in the night. At the PC cafe, what was meant to be a friendly hangout turns into a nightmare as Jae-hyuk bumps into Min-chae and Sarah. Guilt and awkwardness surge as he gets caught skipping study time. Sarah shamelessly brags about her excuses for skipping school, while Jae-hyuk trembles nearby. To break the tension, he forces himself back to the computer, trying to escape into the game world. The game collapses, and Han-sol explodes in rage, slamming the desk and screaming. As bystanders glare in disgust, Jae-hyuk burns with shame, wishing he could disappear. After being shushed, Hansel's attention shifts, his lecherous gaze locking onto figures in the distance. Jae-hyuk follows his line of sight, pupils dilating in shock at Min-chae and Sarah. Unaware of their identity, Han-sol is consumed by filthy fantasies. Hearing him objectify Min-chae, Jae-hyuk breaks into a cold sweat, alarms ringing in his head. As Min-chae stands up, Han-sol raises his phone to film her secretly. In the nick of time, a hand shoots out, snatching the device away from its vile purpose. It's Jae-hyuk's hand. He grips Hansel's wrist tightly. Though his body trembles with fear, his eyes ignite with a spark of resistance for the first time. No more silence. Eyes wide with fury, Jae-hyuk unleashes a gut-wrenching roar at his so-called friend, shattering the facade of false peace. In the darkness, the standoff escalates. "She's my friend." Jae-hyuk's voice shakes but remains firm, leaving Han-sol shocked that his errand boy dares to bite back. After the clash, Han-sol shakes him off and leaves with a venomous threat. Jae-hyuk stands alone, gasping for air, facing the dawn of an even crueler tomorrow. The next morning, Han-sol appears as if nothing happened, grinning as he orders Jae-hyuk to buy bread. This silent pressure mocks last night's resistance as meaningless. Facing renewed humiliation, Han-sol guilt-trips him with past favors. Jae-hyuk glares back, the insults toward Min-chae echoing in his mind, fueling a raging fire in his chest. Decades of suppressed rage finally erupt. Refusing to be extorted again, Jae-hyuk silences the mocking crowd with a thunderous kick that sends Kwok Han-sol crashing down. Sprawled on the floor, Han-sol stammers pathetic excuses as the door swings open. In an instant, his arrogance dissolves into humiliation under the gaze of the class. Humiliation twists into vicious retaliation. Han-sol corners Jae-hyuk, the sharp crack of a slap echoing through the air, a brutal assertion of dominance. Wielding his slipper like a weapon, Han-sol closes in with a sadistic grin. Paralyzed by fear, Jae-hyuk realizes there is no escape. The challenge has been issued. In the shadows, his lips tremble with terror. Yet, biting back the fear, Jae-hyuk fights through the tears and accepts his fate with a resolute defiance. On the school grounds, Han-sol boasts loudly to mask his insecurity. But behind the exaggerated shadow boxing, he can't shake the memory of Jae-hyuk's piercing, unfamiliar gaze. Doubt gnaws at Han-sol like a viper. Alone in the hallway, he screams to drown out the fear of losing, transforming from a predator into a cornered beast. Malice brews in the shadows as shards of glass fall into Jae-hyuk's shoe. Calling himself a strategist, Han-sol giggles while setting a bloody, cowardly trap. Despite his friend's warning, Jae-hyuk's resolve is locked by a heavy, unspoken past. Trembling, he turns away, carrying his burden toward the inevitable clash. Willpower collapses under searing pain. The moment he steps into the shoe, agony spikes through his nerves, sending him crashing to the floor in a cold sweat. A warm-up run turns into a bloody torture. Each step slices deeper, sending him tumbling onto the pavement. Before the fight even begins, his body is broken. Impatience turns him feral. Hansol roars into the void, eager to unleash his violence, oblivious to the hell his opponent is enduring just to arrive. Meanwhile, in another corner of the city, more stories are unfolding. Studio showcase. Arriving on a mangled foot, Jae-hyuk is instantly ambushed. Showing no mercy, Hansol launches a ruthless slide tackle before his opponent can even stand. It's not a fight, it's a slaughter. Seizing the advantage, Hansol pounces like a mad dog, drowning out the crowd's gasps with the sound of brutal impact. He targets the wound with surgical cruelty. Hansol stomps repeatedly on the bloody foot, transforming the fight into a gruesome display of torture. "Hurt yourself playing soccer?" Hansol mocks with feigned innocence, eyes gleaming with sadistic triumph. The crowd whispers, sensing the foul play. Pain dismantles Jae-hyuk's defense. Claiming it as strategy, Hansol rains punches on his immobilized target, relishing the helpless agony in Jae-hyuk's eyes. The grim reality sets in. With his left foot shredded, Jae-hyuk has no foundation. Unable to pivot or dodge, he stands defenseless, a lamb awaiting the slaughter. Spotting the fatal weakness, Hansol realizes Jae-hyuk's injured foot makes him a sitting duck. With a cruel laugh, he unleashes a brutal barrage, capping it with a savage uppercut to the jaw that drenches the scene in despair. Hansol basks in the crowd's fear, arrogantly proclaiming his dominance. Meanwhile, distant students are drawn to the commotion, shock washing over them as they recognize Jae-hyuk fighting on the screen once again. Cornered and in agonizing pain, Jae-hyuk drowns in self-doubt, unable to use Minchi's tactics. Just as despair threatens to consume him, the memory of his mentor sparks a sudden, fierce resolve in his eyes. Hearing the insults directed at Minchi, rage overrides Jae-hyuk's pain. He snaps, channeling his fury into a thunderous straight punch that slams precisely into Hansol's solar plexus. But Hansol doesn't fall. Instead, he retaliates with sadistic glee. Standing over the bloody Jae-hyuk, he mocks his futile resistance, turning the fight into a brutal display of humiliation. Through the haze of pain, Jae-hyuk struggles to open one eye. Across the crowd, he spots a familiar blonde figure, Sera. Her presence strikes him like lightning, cutting through his confusion. Watching Sera's stance, realization hits Jae-hyuk. She's a southpaw, that's the key. Gritting his teeth against the pain, he shifts his weight, pulling his injured foot back and switching to a southpaw stance. The crowd murmurs in confusion. Switching stances now seems suicidal. Yet Jae-hyuk remains calm. Despite the searing pain in his ankle, he balances on his toes, ready to gamble everything on this new tactic. Memories surface. The core of the southpaw strategy is the counter. Ignoring Hansel's mockery, Jae-hyuk silently assumes his fighting stance, the air thick with the tension of an imminent clash. As the fight resumes, Jae-hyuk doesn't strike but repeatedly taps Hansel's lead hand. This seemingly weak harassment chips away at Hansel's patience, irritating him like a persistent fly. "Get off me!" Hansel's temper snaps, and he lashes out to break the contact. This is exactly what Jae-hyuk was waiting for. The trap is set, and the prey is stepping right into the kill zone. Hansel's heavy fist crashes into Jae-hyuk's face, the impact distorting his features. But the blow doesn't break him. Instead, he endures the pain to seize the split second needed for his counterattack. In that fraction of a second where Hansol is vulnerable, Jae-hyuk's killer instinct explodes. His left hand fires like a cannon, launching his arrogant opponent into the air with a thunderous impact. Direct hit. Jae-hyuk doesn't hesitate, pressing his advantage. The clean, decisive counter draws gasps of awe from the spectators. The tide of the battle has turned instantly. Sera's eyes sparkle with excitement, struggling to believe the boy mastered southpaw tactics in just 1 week. Keep going, Jae-yuk. Win this, and you've got your chance. She cheers silently. The tables have turned, and now Han-sol retreats in humiliation. Unable to accept being dominated by a loser, his eyes dart wildly until he spots a bicycle nearby, desperation fueling his rage. Street fights have no rules. With a twisted expression, Han-sol swings the bike wheel, smashing it into Jae-yuk. The sickening thud draws gasps of horror from the crowd, his dirty tactics escalating the violence. Seizing the opening, Han-sol unleashes a frenzied barrage, pouring his fury into every strike. As Jae-yuk struggles to survive the onslaught, Sarah poses a chilling question from the sidelines. Do you know a southpaw counter fighter's weakness? His mind flashes back to Sarah's warning about being cornered. Yet, smiling confidently in that memory, she offered the ultimate solution. If there's no room to retreat, you break through with the purest form of a counter. In the depths of despair, memory floods back. The wall isn't a dead end. It's a fulcrum for leverage, and pain is just a disguise for the counterattack. Now! Spotting the opening, Kim Jae-yuk uses the wall's recoil to channel his fury into a single, thunderous straight punch. The enemy stumbles and falls, but the fight isn't over. That cold voice rings in his head. Mount him and finish it. Reason snaps completely. Fists rain down like a storm, each blow accompanied by a hysterical roar. How dare you treat my friend like that? His former allies choose to watch coldly. Fight your own battles. Kwok Han-sol realizes in despair that he is swallowed by this vortex of violence, utterly alone. Pleas for mercy are ruthlessly cut short. Kim Jae-yuk hears no sorries now, only the dull thud of fists on flesh, venting a hatred long suppressed. With zero mercy, a final heavy kick drives fear deep into the bone. It's over, Kwok Han-sol. In this moment, the prey has become the predator. I will never forgive you. This punch isn't just for revenge. It's to shatter his cowardly past, erupting with a deafening boom under the blue sky. Ragged breathing echoes across the silent square. Kim Jae-yuk stands amidst the blood, sweat dripping, surrounded only by the horrified stares of his classmates. Outside the crowd, a pair of eyes watches the spectacle. Instead of fear, the silver-haired boy lets out a manic, amused laugh. What unexpected fun! The smoke clears, and life goes on. At the bus stop, Hong Sarah waves goodbye to this interesting master and disciple duo, the sunlight seeming to chase away the earlier gloom. With a teasing maybe another chance, Hong Sarah steps onto her journey home. Kim Jae-yuk is left blushing, his heart a mix of gratitude and the melancholy of parting. The bus slowly pulls away. Kim Jae-yuk looks out the window, silently thanking his big-hearted friend. The cabin returns to calm, but it's just the quiet before the storm. The atmosphere suddenly freezes. Lee Min-shai puts down her phone, her eyes turning sharp and probing. Back there, why did you lose control like that? Facing the question, Kim Jae-yuk lowers his head in shame, but gives the firmest answer. Because he insulted the friend I wanted to make. It is the coward's final line in the sand. Meanwhile, in a shadowy corner, delinquents are laughing recklessly. Until a pair of cold leather shoes steps into their territory, instantly dropping the temperature to freezing. Seo Doyen. Facing the taunt about his quiet voice, he remains expressionless, calmly adjusting his cuffs as a wave of oppressive pressure rolls in. Their scornful mockery fails to stir even a ripple. He looks up, his eyes holding no anger, only the absolute confidence to crush everything. Wanna fight? Bring it on. Facing the senior's taunts, Jae-yuk doesn't flinch. Adjusting his glasses, his calm words cut through their bravado like a sharp blade. Rage ignites the conflict. The moment his opponent lunges, Jae-yuk spots the opening. A thunderous punch explodes, shaking the very air. With a dull thud, the opponent crashes to the ground, howling in pain. The air freezes. Amidst the spectators' terrified gazes, only Jae-yuk's cold silhouette remains. Meanwhile, another brutal brawl unfolds. The blue-haired fighter displays terrifying skill, each kick carrying destructive power, driving his opponent to the brink. Twilight cloaks the campus, the heat of battle lingering. Behind the door to the gym equipment room, unknown darkness and a new storm are quietly brewing. Pushing open the door, he is met with hostility and oppression. This is invincible territory, where a strict hierarchy makes the air heavy and the weak are nothing but ants. Facing the challenger claiming to be the top rookie, the silver-haired leader, Han Philip, sneers with contempt. Arrogance flows in his eyes. Want my recognition? Then prove it. The phone screen lights up, revealing Kim Jae-hyuk's face. The kill order is given. The fangs in the darkness are now aimed at the unsuspecting boy in glasses. Promotional content, the story pauses briefly. Back to daily life at the convenience store. Jae-hyuk escaped bullying but not the errands. He smiles bitterly at the insults, his inner helplessness known to no one. Suddenly, a group calling themselves outcasts breaks the tension. Their eyes shine with adoration, hailing Jae-hyuk as a hero against bullying. Their enthusiasm leaves him bewildered. Turns out they are the anime club. Surrounded by the warmth of these outcasts, Jae-hyuk is ushered towards the club room, a long-lost sense of belonging rising quietly. Stepping into the room, a girl on her phone looks up sharply. Recognizing Jae-hyuk, her shock instantly turns into an ear-piercing scream. OMG! It's you? The shock sends her tumbling, chair and all. Despite the pain in her knee, Baek Daesum stares at her idol in disbelief, the scene descending into chaotic comedy. Despite wearing one ridiculous bare slipper, Daesum flushes red and trembles as she extends her hand. Facing this superfan who watched all his fights, Jae-hyuk feels unprecedentedly shy. Daesum dances with excitement, losing her composure. As club members tease her, amidst this noisy yet warm atmosphere, Jae-hyuk feels awkward but not unwelcome. Calming down, they gather around. Though Daesum complains about Jae-hyuk being slow, her eyes hide no anticipation as she invites him to join their little haven. The group photo on the screen seems to whisper, "Stay with us." For the solitary Jae-hyuk, this acceptance from peers feels warmer than any victory. Jae-hyuk wonders if he's worthy of being liked, while beside him, Daesum blushes furiously, suddenly realizing she forgot her skirt. The awkwardness level hits the roof. At the club door, the air is thick with shy affection as Baek Daesum calls him her hero, leaving Jae-hyuk blushing. But the moment he glances at his phone alone, the sweet atmosphere shatters into sudden shock. Mid-selfie in the hallway, a cold voice cuts through. "Found you." Jae-hyuk spins around in fear, but upon seeing the dark-haired boy, his terror morphs into fanboy excitement, mistaking the predator for a celebrity. "Let's fight." Seo Doyen's cold declaration instantly shatters Jae-hyuk's fantasy. Before he can even refuse, terror floods in as a fist flies, knocking him to the ground with brutal force. The assault is relentless. As Jae-hyuk curls up screaming "Stop!", Doyen continues with cold indifference. Suddenly, Doyen freezes, his eyes widening in unexpected shock. The air freezes. Doyen looks up sharply as Baek Daesum, eyes wide with horror, screams his name. On the floor, a confused Jae-hyuk is left bewildered in this tense, three-way standoff. Chaos erupts in the hallway. Jae-hyuk's terror, Daesum's tearful screams, and the bully's rage collide, creating a suffocating atmosphere of violence and despair. Do they know each other? Before Jae-hyuk can process, a scarred boy in a hoodie tries to intervene. Doyen's eyes turn to ice as he warns him to stay back, raising his fists. With zero mercy, Doyen slams the boy into the floor with a bone-jarring thud. Spectators recoil in horror as Daesum rushes to the victim, leaving Jae-hyuk chilled to the bone by the brutality. Watching Doyen walk away alone, questions fill Jae-hyuk's mind. But suddenly, a greater terror strikes. He forgot to buy bread for his demonic instructor, Lee Min-shai. Nightmare realized. Min-shai towers over him like a tyrant, her glare terrifying. "My errands come first." Trembling under her pressure, Jae-hyuk finds this far scarier than any bully. He thought defeating Sangbom, Daebong, and Han Sol meant he had risen. But as he's pinned to the ground, the humiliation reminds him that he is still far from being truly strong. Memories flood back, endless provocations and ambushes. No matter how many times he wins, new wolves always arrive. The phrase "let's fight" has become his haunting nightmare. Running away solves nothing. Hiding in the bathroom, Jae-hyuk stares at his exhausted, shifting reflection, painfully asking himself, "Do I still look like a victim?" "Just get stronger." Minchi's words echo on the rooftop. Wiping away his sweat, Jae-hyuk's confusion hardens into resolve. If he can't avoid the fight, he must become the one who wins. Training begins. Under the sun, Minchi demonstrates a hybrid kick combining front and side power. The sharp force of her movement leaves Jae-hyuk nervous yet hungry for that strength. But as Minchi seriously explains the instep kick, Jae-hyuk inexplicably leans in and sniffs her foot. "Wait, it smells nice?" The vibe instantly shifts from intense training to awkward comedy. "Pervert!" With a roar, Minchi drives her foot into his liver. The agony instantly crumples him, teaching him a visceral lesson about the hell of a liver shot. The next day, Jae-hyuk creeps into class, praying to avoid trouble. A tap on his shoulder makes him jump, but turning around, he finds only the blushing face of Baek Daesum. Seeing her shy demeanor, Jae-hyuk's heart races. Is this a confession? But her next words strike like lightning. "Please, fight Seo Doyen for me." Instantly, his romantic fantasy explodes into pure terror. As the chapter concludes, a vibrant promo poster acts as a brief interlude, teasing more thrilling stories from the studio. The air in the classroom thickens. Seeing her blushing face, Jae-hyuk's heart pounds for a confession, but reality has a cruel twist. "I need you to fight Seo Doyen." Her words strike like lightning, shattering his romantic fantasy into utter shock and absurdity. The dark truth surfaces. The notorious, invincible gang is recruiting, and the only entrance exam is to defeat Kim Jae-hyuk. "Doyen used to be a good kid." Tears well up in her eyes, as she fears her childhood friend is slipping irreversibly into the abyss. She trembles, begging him to save her friend through violence. Jae-hyuk freezes in terror. For a weakling like him, it's a suicide mission. "I'm sorry, I can't." Jae-hyuk bows his head, crushed by guilt. He is no hero, just a mortal barely surviving his own fears. Tears bursting forth, she flees in humiliation, leaving behind an awkward silence and Jae-hyuk drowning in a heavy sigh. Night falls, and fear creeps in. Unbothered, Minchi scrolls through her phone and drops a bomb. "Just confront the leader directly." "That's suicide," Jae-hyuk gasps. Ignoring his panic, Minchi calmly texts her delinquent contacts for a lead. "Found him." A familiar silver-haired face lights up the screen. The devil watching from the shadows has been revealed. The trail leads to the gym storage. Standing before the glowing door, heart thundering, Jae-hyuk knows there is no turning back. The door creaks open, and murderous glares pierce him. In the center of the wolves, the silver-haired boy smiles, awaiting his prey. Trembling, Jae-hyuk demands answers. The silver-haired leader shamelessly admits it. "Yes, you are my hand-picked entrance ticket." It's a cruel game. The leader declares from his throne, whoever defeats Kim Jae-hyuk one-on-one claims the ultimate glory. "Fight like gentlemen." He sets the rules with a smile, dangling money and power to unleash the beasts upon Jae-hyuk. "Fight, or we all jump you." Jae-hyuk faces a grim choice: battle or destruction. Despair tightens its grip around his throat. In the abyss, Minchi's voice echoes. "Just get stronger." The tears of a coward dry up, replaced by the fire of a last stand. "Deal. If I win, this ends." Gritting his teeth, Jae-hyuk signs his life away on a high-stakes gamble with the king. Weeks ago, Jae-hyuk begged for a promise in a dim warehouse. Now, outside the school, the air crackles with tension as the silver-haired leader arrives for the showdown. Trembling with rage, Jae-hyuk clenches his fists and issues a bold challenge to the striking genius. "I'll beat you using only strikes." Seo Doyen freezes in shock. Non-story image, a brief interlude before the battle continues, showcasing other worlds. Rewinding to the standoff, The crowd buzzes as Jaehyuk, eyes cold behind his glasses, repeats his audacious declaration of war against Seo Doin. Flashback to a dim equipment room 4 weeks ago. Jaehyuk, swallowing his fear, proposes a desperate gamble to the arrogant figure before him. If I win, will the bullying stop? After securing the mocking promise, a trembling Jaehyuk steps into the sunlight. With a heavy sigh, he accepts his fate. He has to fight Seo Doin. In a back alley, he stumbles upon Lee Min-chae smoking. His concern is met with fury, and under her intimidating glare, he timidly confirms his high-stakes deal with Seo Doin. Plagued by self-doubt, Jaehyuk questions his chances. Min-chae, though harsh, boosts his confidence with her aggressive loyalty. You're my student, so just win. Her words spark a flicker of hope. Daily life involves servitude, as Jaehyuk grumbles while carrying her bag. Meanwhile, inside the classroom, eyes watch from the window, tracking the challenger who is about to step into the storm. Students gossiping about the upcoming fight are startled by a sudden presence. Baek Daesum appears behind them, her eyes widening in shock the moment she hears the name Kim Jaehyuk. It turns out Baek Daesum is Seo Doin's childhood friend. This bombshell drops jaws, leaving Jaehyuk and Min-chae stunned, while others just swoon over her beauty. A misunderstanding about them being a couple triggers Min-chae's explosive temper. After barely restraining her flying fists, the group finally calms down to discuss the real issue: intel on Seo Doin. In the quiet club room, Baek Daesum is unexpectedly thrilled to hear Jaehyuk will fight Doin. Hoping to save her old friend, she decides to help and offers crucial intelligence. The intel is alarming. Seo Doin trained in MMA for 3 full years. Min-chae's expression darkens. This means they aren't facing a mere brawler, but a trained fighter. He won every single match. Daesum's words make Min-chae curse under her breath. To grasp the true extent of the danger, they nervously click on his fight footage. On screen, Seo Doin moves like a ghost, dodging and countering in one fluid motion. Watching his heavy punches land with brutal precision, Jaehyuk and Min-chae break into a cold sweat. A devastating high kick delivers a KO in just 15 seconds. As Daesum explains the origin of his nickname Striking Genius, Jaehyuk stares at the screen, suffocated by the overwhelming gap in power. He's basically semi-pro. Min-chae buries her face in despair, and even Jaehyuk screams, "How am I supposed to win?" Amidst the panic, Daesum perks up, surprised by the word teacher. With the tutor secret out, Daesum looks at them with starry eyes. But there's no time for fangirling. Pressed by Jaehyuk, she digs deep into her memories and finally recalls Seo Doin's only potential weakness. Under Min-chae's desperate questioning, Daesum finally speaks. Min-chae's eyes light up with sudden realization. She sees a path to victory. As the chapter closes, a starry canvas unfolds, revealing a universe of vibrant stories waiting to be explored. Tension fills the room as Daesum digs through her memories. Min-chae holds her breath until Daesum finally recalls that one fatal weakness. Meanwhile, on the rooftop training ground, Jaehyuk is fired up. Yet, watching him, a rare flicker of hesitation and worry crosses Min-chae's eyes. Daesum crashes the session. Facing Min-chae's doubt, she sheds her hoodie revealing gym gear and a determination that leaves Min-chae stunned. Daesum finally reveals the secret. Seo Doin is a master striker, but despises grappling. This intel instantly lights a fire in everyone's eyes. Only striking, no grappling? Min-chae immediately grasps the significance, explaining to a confused Jaehyuk just how massive this tactical flaw is. Because he hates physical contact, Doin ignores half the game. Min-chae sighs internally. This is exactly the lesson she didn't want to teach, but now must. Min-chae awkwardly warns him. Wrestling means sweat and intimate contact. Jaehyuk freezes, but he knows submission holds are the only way to win. Casting aside hesitation, Min-chae dons a professional wrestling singlet, her gaze sharpening. If they're doing this, they're going all in, starting with underhooks. Ignoring Daesum's confusion, Min-chae demonstrates. As she slides her arms under Jaehyuk's, his mind goes blank, overwhelmed by her sudden warmth and scent. This isn't a hug, it's a suffocating lock. Minchai tightens her grip and hoists Jae-hyuk off the ground, the sheer force making him groan in pain. Thud. Jae-hyuk is slammed onto the mat. Minchai towers over him, declaring the core tactic, drag Doyen to the ground, then finish him with a choke. Training intensifies, even Daesum becomes a dummy. Jae-hyuk tackles again and again, refining his moves under Minchi's strict, shouting command. Technique isn't enough, endurance is hell. Crawling, pull-ups, battling ropes, Jae-hyuk struggles at his limit, sweat pouring like rain. From sunset to nightfall, they push until they collapse. Sitting on the rooftop, a steaming bowl of ramen becomes their warmest comfort. Under the gentle night, Daesum opens up. She remembers the old Co Doyen, the childhood friend before he turned into a bully. He walked me home every day. The others point out the obvious. He liked you, didn't he? Daesum blushes furiously, her heart thrown into turmoil. Meanwhile, in a dark corner of the city, amidst a noisy drinking party, a lone figure stares at a receipt, his gaze cold and dangerous. Under dim light, a hand meticulously traces a girl's silhouette over a data sheet, the pen scratching softly like a hunter locking onto prey. Laughter and alcohol fill the raucous party, but the scene cuts to Co Doyen staring silently at a receipt and sketch, isolated in his own world. Real men never bow. Amidst swirling smoke, thugs boast about violence, their twisted values celebrated as truth fueled by alcohol. It's not just boasting, it's pressure. His greedy companions urge Doyen to leverage his connections with the Invincibles, treating him as a mere tool for power. The so-called big business is just a crypto scam. They mock Doyen's gloom, valuing quick cash over conscience in their greed-consumed eyes. A shady luxury watch is forced onto Doyen's wrist, not a gift, but a shackle to buy his soul. He silently bears the weight of this unwanted generosity. Suffocated by the fake atmosphere, Doyen snaps when a woman touches him. Disgust erupts as he shoves her away and storms out of the toxic room. Walking the noisy night streets, the cold wind fails to clear his irritation. Rubbing his stiff neck, he feels physically drained by the smoke and repulsive lifestyle he just escaped. Of all times, thugs choose now to bump into him. His suppressed rage finds an outlet as Doyen stops, his gaze colder than the night itself. I'm Co Doyen from Yangmin High. The moment his name drops, his leg snaps out like a whip, answering the provocation with instant, brutal violence. Even surrounded and taking hits, Doyen shows no fear. Pain seems non-existent, replaced entirely by a beast-like instinct to counterattack. A vicious high kick sends an opponent flying. He roars amidst the chaos, channeling his loathing for life into pure destructive power. I'm not afraid of worms like you. The opponent sees red, screaming murder, but his bloodlust pales in comparison to Doyen's cold, overwhelming skill. It ends in a blink. Doyen moves faster than sight. With a heavy thud, the fight concludes, leaving only the terrified stares of bystanders. Meanwhile, the puppet master Han Philip issues a command via screen. Seeing Kim Jae-hyuk's photo, Doyen's bored gaze sharpens. The hunt is on. 3 weeks of hell training, from dawn to dusk. Under Lee Minchi's ruthless whip, Jae-hyuk falls and rises countless times, sweat soaking every inch of ground. The day of reckoning arrives. As he puts on his shirt, the fabric strains against new muscle. The scrawny boy is gone, reborn in strength. Hey loser, ready? Minchai asks from the doorway. Jae-hyuk freezes, cold sweat trickling down. His body is stronger, but the fear of facing Co Doyen still lingers. Inside the locker room, Jae-hyuk's trembling hands clench into fists. He must conquer his fear for this moment. Meanwhile, a massive crowd gathers outside the construction site, holding their breath for the coming storm. The air thickens as Jae-hyuk and Co Doyen lock eyes amidst the watching crowd. Whispers of excitement and unease fill the air. While his friends look on with worry, Jae-hyuk's gaze shows there is no turning back. Greedy eyes flicker in the shadows. For the gamblers, this is merely a game for profit. Doyen wears a scornful smirk, the confidence of a predator, casting a heavy veil of oppression over Jae-hyuk instantly. "I'll crush you with just my fists!" Jae-hyuk roars, throwing out a wild provocation. Behind this seemingly reckless declaration lies Minchai's cold tactical layout. The trap is set. Never lost? Before the words settle, Doyen launches forward like a phantom. That suffocating confidence instantly transforms into a lethal sprint, an unannounced burst of power that makes the air tremble. Too fast. Cold sweat breaks out as the jab grazes his nose. Before Jae-hyuk can breathe, Doyen's right cross follows instantly. The overwhelming difference in speed is despairing. Just as the crowd thinks he's only retreating in panic, Jae-hyuk suddenly ducks. He executes a perfect evasive maneuver in the nick of time, slipping under the lethal blow at an impossible distance. Smack! The crisp sound of a slap echoes through the arena. Not a fist, but a slap dripping with humiliation. Doyen's eyes widen in shock, while the crowd stands agape, unable to believe what they just witnessed. "I've watched your fight videos. You're nothing special." Jae-hyuk's words pierce Doyen's pride like a dagger. Seeing the humiliating rage ignite in his opponent's eyes, Minchai knows his mental defenses have crumbled. Anger swallows reason. Doyen's attacks become wild and full of openings. Seizing the chance, Jae-hyuk slaps him again as if toying with him, each smack destroying the pride of the strongest rookie. Now! Facing Doyen's mindless charge, a cold light flashes in Jae-hyuk's eyes as he predicts the trajectory perfectly. He slips the attack and drives a calculated left hook straight into his opponent's jaw. The trap snaps shut. The striking was all a bluff. Jae-hyuk's true goal is close quarters. In that instant, Minchai's teaching explodes in his mind. Fake with strikes, then takedown. Hands locked, lift off. Jae-hyuk unleashes astonishing power, hoisting Doyen's entire body into the air. The world spins, and the next second brings a devastating suplex. Without hesitation, a perfect parabola cuts through the sky. It is not just a display of strength, but the loudest roar of the underdog against the elite, as gravity pushes the destructive force to its peak. Boom! The cement ground echoes with a dull thud as Doyen slams down, dust rising. The spectators shudder in phantom pain, but Jae-hyuk doesn't pause, pouncing like a hungry wolf to suppress him. Mount position, triangle choke. Jae-hyuk strangles Doyen's throat, his face contorted with exertion. No mercy is needed now. Make him pass out, is the only rule for victory. Is it over? Just as bystanders think the outcome is set, a cold voice shatters the illusion. In the face of absolute strength, even technique crumbles. An eerie shadow descends once more. Impossible. Doyen tears open the lock with sheer brute force. A terrifying surge of monstrous strength erupts instantly, flinging Jae-hyuk violently to the ground. Despair descends once again. He used a bridge? Minchai gasps in disbelief. That's a technical grappling escape. How could someone untrained pull that off purely on instinct? It's not just skill, it's overwhelming power. Jae-hyuk stumbles up, clutching his throbbing head, realizing with despair that he stands no chance against Doyen in a striking match. Take it to the ground. Jae-hyuk fakes a jab and dives for a tackle. But Doyen anticipates it instantly. A counterstrike erupts like thunder, slamming him ruthlessly into the floor. Mocking laughter fills the air as Jae-hyuk gasps for breath, his skull pounding. Doyen's cold voice drifts down. Did you prepare for grappling? Try it again. It's not over. Jae-hyuk grits his teeth, forcing down fear to mix in feints. But a massive fist ruthlessly crushes his strategy, the sickening thud of impact freezing the air. To take me down, you need to get close, Doyen lectures coldly, punctuating every word with a heavy blow. Jae-hyuk's tactics crumble helplessly before absolute power. Pull yourself together. Minchai's desperate cry cuts through the noise. Jae-hyuk swings wildly, trying to turn the tide, but every missed punch only drains his stamina and exposes him further. It feels like striking air. Jae-hyuk gambles everything on one last tackle, only to run straight into a prepared counter. Agony shoots through his body as the world spins violently. Blood sprays as Jae-hyuk slams into the ground, consciousness fading. The fanatic cheers of the invincible gang ring in his ears. To them, this is just another predictable slaughter. A despair unlike anything before. Jae-hyuk cowers in the shadows, staring up at this insurmountable wall. No matter how he struggles, victory seems impossible, and fear begins to devour his sanity. Promotional page. The chapter pauses here, but amidst these other stories, one question remains: what fate awaits Kim Jae-hyuk? The fight rages on, suffocating in its intensity. Sweat pours down Jae-hyuk's face as the wall before him grows taller. Tackles read, strikes useless. Against Doyen's overwhelming power, what options remain? It's coming! Jae-hyuk throws up a guard, but even blocked hits rattle his bones with agonizing force. Doyen closes the distance, a predator cornering his prey into a dead end. Spectators coldly pronounce the verdict: it's over. As if on cue, Doyen's heavy kick sweeps Jae-hyuk off his feet. Every breath brings agony, and Jae-hyuk feels himself falling into the abyss. As consciousness fades, memories of humiliation flood back. A ticket to invincible? A toy for bullies? I don't. A spark of defiance ignites in Jae-hyuk's eyes. He refuses to return to that living hell. The gap is immense. Jae-hyuk's furious punches look like slow motion to Doyen. With a mere sidestep, Doyen evades everything, mocking the desperate flailing of an amateur. You're tough, I'll give you that. But this is the end. Doyen's offense is a relentless storm. Jae-hyuk's body screams in agony, his resilience crumbling under the precision of the assault. As Jae-hyuk teeters on the edge of defeat, Minchai makes her move. Now! She signals Baek Daesum, and the quiet girl's eyes sharpen. It's time to play their final trump card. Wait for the signal. Remembering Minchi's secret strategy, Jae-hyuk holds on by a thread. Suddenly, a voice pierces the chaos. Daesum tears off her disguise and unleashes the shout that will turn the tide. A desperate scream pierces the standoff as Baek Daesum yells, her voice shaking Kim Jae-hyuk to his core and causing Seo Doyen to freeze. This is the second's distraction strategy, weaponizing Seo Doyen's feelings, turning Baek Daesum's hateful cry into a blade that pierces his mental defense. The insult lands like a hammer blow, echoing past traumas. Seo Doyen trembles, his rationality crumbling under the weight of humiliation and rage. Tears of betrayal stream down his face before igniting into pure fury. Seo Doyen screams and unleashes a wild, uncontrollable punch. Like a berserk beast, he chases his target, every punch packed with destructive power, but his blind rage leaves his movements wide and reckless. Lee Minchi's eyes sharpen, instantly spotting the fatal opening left by his high guard. Now is the moment to target the liver. Without hesitation, a precise left instep kick slams into his ribs. Seo Doyen's eyes widen as agonizing pain tears a silent scream from his throat. Capitalizing on the shock, the rear naked choke locks in tight. Powerful arms cut off his air, slowly extinguishing the light in Seo Doyen's eyes. The battle pauses, the outcome decided, while beyond reality, creators continue to weave more tales of passion and conflict. In the gray memories of their childhood, an 11-year-old Baek Daesum cries helplessly in the corner, surrounded by cold laughter and indifference. Seo Doyen tries to block out the noise with a book, but the piercing sobs make him clench his fists, his suppressed anger reaching a boiling point. The bullies turn their target to him, spewing venomous insults. Seo Doyen snaps his head around, a dangerous glint flashing in his eyes. Pushed to the limit by insults against his mother, the quiet boy finally snaps, roaring as he tackles the bully to the ground. Baek Daesum summons the courage to intervene, only to be knocked down by a brutal punch, justice looking fragile amidst the maniacal laughter of violence. Watching the girl sob on her desk, Seo Doyen is filled with guilt, hating his own hesitation and the cruelty of this world. He awkwardly hands her a tissue, a small act of kindness that makes Baek Daesum look up in surprise, their lonely souls intersecting for the first time. In the sunlit classroom, her bright smile dispels the gloom. The words "let's be friends" bring a blush to Seo Doyen's pale cheeks for the first time. From that day on, Baek Daesum, though frail herself, would always rush forward like a brave puppy, trying to protect him from the bullies. Their bond deepened with a school assignment, and as Beck Daysum excitedly invited him home to watch anime, the gears of fate began to turn. It was the only light in a lonely childhood. Daysum laughed uncontrollably at the screen, and while Doyen couldn't grasp the humor, he found a long-lost peace in her joy. The anime was boring. The real joy was the beaming girl beside him. Watching Daysum's blushing face, Doyen realized that a tender affection had quietly taken root. Time slipped away through late dashes to school, shared homework, and doodles. From childhood to high school uniforms, everything changed except for their inseparable bond. But the nightmare arrived on schedule. Cold reality shattered the warmth as a fragile boy was cornered, trembling and begging for mercy amidst a barrage of insults. Dignity was trampled underfoot, and forced squeals provoked ear-piercing laughter. Doyen was used to this humiliation, thinking he just had to endure it, until that day. The sight tore him apart. It was Daysum kneeling on the floor. The demons hadn't stopped, instead, finding her reaction amusing. They escalated their cruelty, cameras poised to capture her shame. Even as his heart bled and screamed to intervene, fear chained Doyen behind the door. He loathed his cowardice, helpless as he watched the girl he loved be humiliated. Tears of regret forged a steel resolve. That twilight, standing before the Thunder MMA gym, Doyen clenched his fists, swearing to bury his weak past forever. From the moment he stepped into the gym, life became nothing but throwing punches. Every thud against the heavy bag was a declaration of war against his weaker self. He trained as if his life depended on it. From March to September, sweat sculpted solid muscle, and the clumsy boy completely transformed amidst the rhythmic sound of the jump rope. Under the spotlight, the WFC National Amateur Tournament cage became his proving ground. Doyen's eyes were cold. He was no longer prey, but a hunter ready to strike. 15 seconds, a heavy blow, and the opponent hit the floor. After his first victory, Doyen went on a rampage, riding a myth of invincibility with one shocking KO after another. Despite his winning streak, the coach sternly warned against being one-dimensional. But Doyen, intoxicated by his striking power, stubbornly believed that knocking opponents out before they grabbed him was enough. "Your fists are weapons now!" Leaving the gym with his coach's warning, a familiar voice cut through the night, calling out to the newly minted fighting prodigy. It was Daysum. She smiled and suggested watching anime like old times. But as Doyen looked at the face he once longed for, he realized he had walked too far into the world of violence. The next day, walking through the hallway, Doyen wrestled with the anime invitation he had no interest in. Suddenly, a disturbance ahead made his pupils dilate, and dread washed over him. The nightmare returned. Daysum was cornered again, forced to change clothes. Her despair pierced Doyen. This time, he didn't hide. He appeared like a ghost in the doorway, freezing the air. Facing the intruder, the red-haired thug didn't back down. Instead, stomping on the clothes, he mocked them, asking if they were dating. Doyen stared dead ahead, his knuckles cracking under the pressure. "Since you kissed, give us a review?" Before the filth could finish leaving his mouth, Doyen's suppressed rage detonated. A heavy fist exploded forward, instantly warping the disgusting face upon impact. Roars of rage deafen the air as the enemy strikes back in desperation, but the world slows down, leaving only cold, exposed openings in my sight. The fallen body doesn't stop the madness. New enemies charge and screaming. I turn slowly, facing the final judgment in this suffocating twilight. The clock ticks, blood dripping from my fingertips. Under the trembling gaze of the crowd, the bullied boy died, and a new king was born. That was the prologue to Co. Doyen and Beck Daysum's story, a memory of power, loss, and redemption, quietly unveiling its curtain. Blood congeals on my knuckles, the metallic scent filling the corridor. Even in the eyes of friends, only the instinct called fear remains. Challengers came one after another, only to wail beneath my fists. Fear spread like a plague, until finally, no one dared to look me in the eye. Violence bought a deathly peace. I thought if I returned to Daysum and the anime club, I could pretend everything was normal, that life was still sweet. Just as I thought I could hold on to this warmth, the scarred stranger appeared. His humble request was the beginning of my descent into the abyss. Moon Seokju's smile was cold as a viper, his request simple justice for my fists. 5 seconds. It took only 5 seconds to cross the line. No accusations, only praise and friendship I'd never known. The old wallet, snatched from a senior, felt strangely heavy in my hands. Expensive sneakers became medals of violence. In his world, fighting was no longer a sin, but a shortcut to glory and material wealth. Eventually, I didn't even need anger. The sensation of fists shattering bone, the rush of absolute control, it became an addiction I couldn't shake. By the 3rd year, the faces around me changed. Though everyone avoided us, I drowned in the fake revelry of the group, convincing myself I was no longer lonely. I walked the halls nonchalantly, enjoying the twisted attention. I didn't notice the girl who was once closest to me watching with eyes full of estrangement. They talked of anime and dates, trying to pull me into new circles. I laughed along awkwardly, afraid to turn and see Daysum's shocked, heartbroken face. Amidst their jeers, I played the playboy. That night of debauchery, alcohol numbed my nerves, but couldn't mask the hollowness in my heart. The girl offered herself warmly, but I shoved her away violently. In that moment of sobriety, the only name that surfaced in my mind was Daysum. Like a drowning man gasping for air, I stumbled and rang her doorbell. When the door opened, all I wanted was to strip away every disguise in front of her. "You're just like the bullies who tortured me." That sentence hurt more than any fist. Before that closing door, I finally realized I had lost everything. Memories flood in like a tide from the trembling behind the door to the solitary shadow in the alley. With every punch and every drop of blood, a voice deep inside asks, "What is this all for?" That was the only light in the darkness. His trembling hand sketches that smile, the girl who once offered him kindness without reservation. Because of her words, "Let's be friends," he found a reason to throw a punch. But the bubble of warmth bursts instantly. Lee Minchi's screamed tears through the air. "Jae-hyuk, hurry up and finish that trash. Kill him." Reality is a brutal coliseum. There is no room for hesitation. Fight only, for losing means losing everything. He grits his teeth and swings wildly, only to be blasted away by absolute power. As the spectators gloat, the abyss of despair opens its jaws wide. Even as his body threatens to break, even as sweat and tears blur his vision, one thought remains as hard as steel: I will never lose. It is the final roar of the underdog's dignity. Warm memories and brutal reality crash violently in his mind. To protect that gentleness, Kim Jae-hyuk transforms into a demon, roaring at the dawn, "If you are trash, you will be swept away." The fight resumes. Seo Doin's movements swing wide with rage. Right now, as the opponent is ruled by emotion, the openings appear like cracks in glass. Minchi's teachings explode in his ear. "Duck under. Take him to the ground." Jae-hyuk drops low like a cheetah, seizing the split-second gap to launch a fatal counter from below. Once on the ground, it's Jae-hyuk's domain. No need for fancy jiu-jitsu. Savage pressure and heavy fists are enough to make the prodigy tremble in fear. The crowd watches in shock as the myth crumbles. Seo Doin struggles in the dirt, his arrogance replaced by a bloody mask. Under this suffocating pressure, even breathing becomes a luxury. This is the result of targeted training, the perfect answer to violence. A brief separation, both fighters running on fumes. But even back on their feet, the scales of victory have tipped. Han Philip watches coldly, spotting the fatal difference: remaining stamina. Struggling on the ground has drained all his strength. This is a long hunt, and Kim Jae-hyuk is the hunter, with the patience to outlast his prey. Flashbacks of lungs burning like fire, of countless days and nights wanting to quit but grinding on. In this war of attrition, every drop of sweat shed in the past becomes the fuel keeping him standing now. Ducking again? Seo Doin judges in panic. His exhausted brain can't handle the complex mind game, and he instinctively blocks Lo, walking right into the trap. Once you fear the takedown, you die by the feint. It was just a bluff. Seo Doin watches in despair as the fist sails past his guard. In that moment, he knows he's finished. Seizing the moment of unconsciousness, Kim Jae-hyuk launches into the air. Legs wrap like a python flying triangle choke. This is the final execution. It must end here, once and for all. As the choke tightens, the world fades to black. In the final moments of fading consciousness, that haunting question surfaces again. Why did I even start fighting? A dull thud announces the conclusion. The once arrogant Seo Doin lies face down, like a puppet with cut strings. Han Phillips simply utters, "It's over." In that endless darkness and regret, only one memory remains warm. That afternoon, the girl who asked if he was hurt, she was the only tenderness he ever wanted to hold onto in this cruel world. Under the sunset, battered Seo Doin weeps on his knees until a warm invitation from friends brings a glimmer of hope through his tears. As this healing scene draws to a close, the story turns a new page, a fresh start for the survivors. A few days later, Seo Doin stands awkwardly in the club room. The once arrogant fighter now stammers through his introduction like a nervous transfer student. Applause erupts instead of hostility. Doin awkwardly apologizes to his former victim, only to be met with good-natured teasing and warm acceptance. The moment Kim Jae-hyuk appears, he's drowned in cheers. The title honorary hero makes him blush furiously as he tries to escape the overwhelming praise. By the vending machine, Doin hands over an apple juice, breaking the silence with a clumsy pun to sincerely apologize for his past violence. Laughter fades as Jae-hyuk gently mentions Doin's past of being bullied. Two once broken hearts resonate deeply in this moment of shared understanding. Touched by the truth, Doin extends his hand, and they grip firmly. For him, losing to Jae-hyuk wasn't just a defeat, but a long-awaited relief. Suddenly, Doin points out that Jae-hyuk is now the strongest, causing Jae-hyuk to panic wildly. Doin, however, looks resolute as he announces his retirement from fighting. Before leaving, Doin drops a meaningful warning: do not get lost in the pursuit of power. Watching him walk away, Jae-hyuk feels a sudden chill of confusion. The warning strikes like thunder. Jae-hyuk recalls the rush of defeating a strong enemy, and a seed named ambition quietly sprouts within his pounding heart. I want to be stronger. The desire surges within him. Meanwhile, on a twilight street, Doin faces judgment from his old gang as he tries to leave that life behind. Facing the gang's roars and threats, Doin doesn't flinch. To return to a normal life, he bows his head, willing to become a punching bag for their rage. The beating halts as a member picks up scattered sketches. Seeing the mysterious girl drawn repeatedly, the gang's gaze turns amused and dangerous. Mockery pierces the air. His excuse of focusing on school crumbles. With his secret exposed, Doin bites his lip in silence, humiliated amidst their raucous laughter. Since he's been seen through, Doin stops making excuses. He returns the watch, a symbol of their past, severing the last tie to his dark history. It's a fake, keep it. The scornful remark drifts away with the wind. Standing alone in the sunset, Doin realizes the brotherhood he cherished might have been an illusion all along. A few days later, the mood shifts wildly. In the mall, Min-chae aggressively demands help with her bikini straps, leaving poor Jae-hyuk petrified and soul-crushed in public. From heavy goodbyes to absurd daily life, the boys' journey continues, and a new adventure is just beginning. Saturday morning silence breaks with a notification. His former enemy Seo Doin followed him? Seeing Doin's happy photos, a wave of relief and warmth washes over Jae-hyuk. Just as he finds peace with the past, Lee Min-chi's name pops up in suggestions. Living together yet virtual strangers online, his finger hovers, paralyzed by sudden nervous hesitation. A nightmare vision of her mocking rejection sends chills down his spine. Yet, remembering she was the one who forged a warrior from a coward, gratitude gives him the courage to click. Following is done, now to say thanks. Deep in the sentiment of typing a long message, Min-chae bursts in. Her sudden entrance strikes like thunder, sending him into a panic to hide the screen. Seeing his flushed face, Minchai assumes the worst with a look of disgust. But she moves on quickly, tossing out an unexpected command: if he's free, he's coming with her. So coming with her meant becoming a pack mule. Resigned, Jae-hyuk asks about the money, and Minchai lifts her chin in pride. It's the reward for her hard-earned grades. Thanks to your tutoring. Minchai offers a rare, shy smile. Jae-hyuk's heart warms, but the sentiment is instantly crushed by her manic spending spree, replaced by fear for her wallet. Ignoring his warnings, Minchai hums a tune, dreaming of the beach. To outshine everyone, a sexy bikini is mandatory, leaving Jae-hyuk to sigh at her unstoppable excitement. Starving and waiting outside, Jae-hyuk is suddenly summoned by a hand from behind the curtain. He resists the insane request, only to be dragged forcibly into the cramped fitting room. The air in the cramped booth feels thick. Faced with her bare back, Jae-hyuk's hands tremble. Panic makes him clumsy. His fingers slip, the string falls, and the situation spirals into chaos. Still reeling from nearly being caught, Minchai turns around. With a mix of anticipation and shyness, she asks, "Is it pretty?" In this tiny space, his heartbeat threatens to drown out his breath. Confronted with the sight, Jae-hyuk's face burns crimson, his heart pounding like it might explode. Reason snaps. Unable to look, he yells by it, and flees the booth in a panic. To mask his embarrassment, he pretends to browse, mind still racing. Minchai's voice startles him again, sending him scrambling to jam a hat onto his head, desperate to hide. Cool night air greets them outside. Minchai teases him as usual, but then casually instructs him to open the blue shopping bag. Beneath her nonchalance lies a hidden intent. Inside is a baseball cap. Before he can react, Minchai gently places it on his head. "It's a gift," she murmurs. In that moment, something heavier than the hat settles softly on his heart. The intense pounding of his heart seems to echo beyond the frame, leaving a lingering pink resonance as the chapter closes. Same night, same street. Minchai acts casual, but Jae-hyuk's face is on fire. The word gift echoes endlessly, his heart pounding traitorously fast, threatening to tear through the silence. Overwhelmed by the sudden warmth, he tries to say thanks but panics, thanking her for fighting lessons instead. Drowning in embarrassment, he blurts out a lame excuse and flees into the romantic night. Alone on the bustling street, Jae-hyuk's heart races at the memory of Minchai's gift, flushed with the warmth of friendship. Suddenly, heavy hands clap onto his shoulders, shattering his daydream into cold reality. The so-called friends reveal their fangs. Laughing, they rummage through his bags, ignoring his desperate pleas, stripping him of his prized possessions like common thieves. Mockery stings like a slap. Desperate to protect the gifts, Jae-hyuk is shoved aside, helpless. Just as hope fades, a cold, imposing figure emerges at the end of the street. Minchai watches coldly. The bullies, oblivious to danger, catcall her. Jae-hyuk freezes not out of fear of them, but of the demon tutor whose eyes are now burning with rage. "You can't even handle trash like this?" Minchai's words cut deep. As the bully's laughter fills the air, Jae-hyuk clenches his fists, his suppressed dignity on the verge of eruption. "You defeated Seo Doyen. What are you afraid of?" Her words awaken a dormant memory. Staring at the thugs, Jae-hyuk's current fear clashes violently with the glory of his past victory. "Even if I'm pathetic, I won't shame my teacher." Jae-hyuk snaps his head up, fear replaced by blazing resolve. "Give it back," he screams, stunning his tormentors. As the punch flies, time freezes. Jae-hyuk's mind flashes back to the balcony lesson in a street fight. You don't need fancy moves, just one lethal weapon. A perfect low kick destroys the will to fight. Her voice echoes. Jae-hyuk's eyes lock on target, and his leg snaps out like a whip, crashing into the enemy's foundation. First kick, agony. Second, stumbling. Third, collapse. As the fourth heavy kick lands, the arrogant bully crumbles into a sobbing mess, reduced to a helpless child. The accomplice tries a sneak attack, but Jae-hyuk reads it coldly. A dodge, then a precise liver blow. The dull thud of impact leaves nothing but a groaning body on the ground. Staring at his hands, Jae-hyuk can hardly believe it, he won. The losers scramble away in terror, leaving behind a venomous vow in the shadows. Baekwon-hye will never let this go. In the darkness, a mysterious figure finds the defeated thug. Terror loosens lips without force, spilling the name, Kim Jae-hyuk, from Young and High. Meanwhile, oblivious to the looming danger, the anime club is an oasis of peace. Jae-hyuk immerses himself in 2D joy, savoring a rare moment of tranquility. Anime really is the best. Watching the screen, a shy blush creeps onto Jae-hyuk's face. This simple, innocent excitement brings a long-forgotten ease to his heart. Bang! The door flies open, shattering the silence. All eyes snap to the entrance, where a silver-haired intruder stands, radiating suffocating charisma. Just call me Philip Young. Ignoring the shock in the room, he cuts through the crowd. His target isn't the strongest fighter, but the trembling Jae-hyuk. You're in deep trouble. Philip smiles, but his words freeze the air. The revenge army of Baekwon-hye has assembled a pack of angry wolves, and Jae-hyuk is the prey. Remembering their brutality, Jae-hyuk breaks into a cold sweat, paralyzed by panic. But Philip grips his shoulder, eyes gleaming dangerously. Don't worry. Either get beaten to death, or fight back with my plan. 30 minutes earlier, the air thickens with unrest. Like hounds catching a scent, the Baekwon-hye bullies prowl the streets, hunting for one named Kim Jae-hyuk. Facing the provocation, Han Philip offers only a contemptuous smile. While the rival leader Cha Byung-taek roars about his injured brother, the tension snaps taut. Touching my student means touching invincible. Philip's gaze sharpens, a red aura of murderous intent rising behind him, instantly drowning anger and fear. Cold sweat trickles down Byung-taek's face. Just as chaos threatens to erupt, Philip casts the Bete one-on-one duel to decide their fate. The deal is struck. The enemy bares their fangs, already visualizing Jae-hyuk on his knees, their mocking laughter piercing the tense street air. Back in reality, Thunderstruck turns to dread. Jae-hyuk realizes Philip didn't mediate peace but smilingly pushed him to the edge of a cliff he must fight. Fear urges him to flee, but Minchi's words crack like a whip. Don't be scared, dumbass. You've gotten strong. Go win this. Silence hangs heavy over the night court. Jae-hyuk trembles, praying for a weak opponent, but heavy footsteps approaching from the dark ruthlessly crush his fantasy. Despair arrives. Emerging from the shadows is the monster known as the Wall of Size Song Gun-ho. His overwhelming bulk and killing intent suffocate the onlookers. The gears of fate spin wildly. There is no running from this battle. Song Gun-ho arrives late, each step thudding against the crowd's heartbeat. His mere presence exudes a ferocious aura that chills the bone. Amidst the gunpowder tension, Sarah casually complains about her nap time. This absurd nonchalance only makes the impending violence feel more surreal and eerie. Mockery serves as the prelude. Sarah ruthlessly taunts her opponent as an elementary schooler, her arrogance sparking humiliation and rage in the air. Crushed by pressure, Jae-hyuk desperately calls for help. From the other end comes only Minchi's cold command. Analyze, then counter. Forcing calm, Jae-hyuk stares down the giant. The opponent's stance is loose, riddled with openings, but is this an opportunity or a trap? Thought lags behind instinct. The behemoth explodes forward, closing the distance instantly, the terrifying wind pressure swallowing Jae-hyuk's vision whole. Death grazes his skin. Jae-hyuk dodges clumsily, heart hammering against his ribs. Beneath the slow movement lies a heavy, lethal strike. Counterattack. Jab, middle kick. Every strike is effortlessly blocked. The crowd's mockery floods in, stinging his ears like a swarm of hornets. Yet, he does not stop. As his high kick is blocked, a raw, instinctual will to survive flickers a defiant light amidst the one-sided slaughter. Under the shroud of the city night, Song Gun-ho stands like an insurmountable mountain. His watertight defense earns the awed whispers of the sighing wall. The massive shield presses forward, trapping Kim Jae-hyuk against the fence. A cold glint flashes in Song Gunhu's eyes, as his iron defense instantly transforms into a lethal spear. Boom! A heavy fist crashes solidly into the skull, the terrifying shockwave trembling the air itself. The outcome seems decided in this single brutal instant. Jae-hyuk barely blocks the lethal blow using the fence, pain twisting his face, but deep within that agony, the spark of counterattack ignites. He sees it now. Facing the storm of attacks, Jae-hyuk guards his vitals desperately. Every impact makes him sharper, until the winning formula finally takes shape in his mind. Watch his reaction. Lee Min-chi's advice echoes. Forcing himself calm amidst the crisis, Jae-hyuk looks past the perfect defense and catches that fleeting opening. Song Gunhu gloats over his imminent victory, unaware that Jae-hyuk has quietly laid a trap, baiting the enemy with rapid jabs, waiting for the prey to step into the snare. A jab followed by a low kick Jae-hyuk hits, but Gunhu mockingly calls it a tickle, unaware that this false sense of security is exactly what Jae-hyuk wants. Amidst mocking laughter, Song Gunhu arrogantly predicts Jae-hyuk's demise, while Jae-hyuk grits his teeth and unleashes that seemingly ineffective combo once again. I see right through you. Song Gunhu scoffs at the repetitive attacks, and the crowd boos, but no one notices the desperate determination in Jae-hyuk's eyes. This is the tactic Lee Min-chi taught: pattern deception. Condition the opponent to a rhythm, making them believe they are in control, until the trap is sprung. The moment Song Gunhu instinctively drops his shoulder to block the low kick, his face is left completely exposed. Jae-hyuk's gaze instantly sharpens like a blade. This time it's not a low kick, but a thunderous high kick. The tactical deception succeeds, and Jae-hyuk's foot crashes into that shocked face with crushing force. The massive body crashes to the ground, and the noisy court falls instantly silent. Bullies and bystanders alike are dumbstruck by this earth-shattering reversal. Amidst the gasps and disbelief, only the leader of Invincible, Han Philip, wears a satisfied smile, as if this was all written in his twisted script. As Song Gunhu is carried away like a dead dog, an exhausted Jae-hyuk has no time to catch his breath before the silver-haired devil approaches with a suffocating smile. True terror descends. Under everyone's gaze, Han Philip extends an olive branch inviting Kim Jae-hyuk to join the Invincible gang. In this moment, Jae-hyuk's blood runs cold. With an inscrutable smile, the silver-haired Han Philip drops a bombshell: join Invincible. Jae-hyuk's pupils quake in shock, cold sweat trickling down as if stalked by a beast. Isn't that just a gang of thugs? Jae-hyuk stammers in terror. But Philip calmly lists top students and battle maniacs, easily dismantling his psychological defenses. Money, girls, status. Philip's whispers act like a devil's temptation, piercing Jae-hyuk's hidden desires. Admit it, you're starting to enjoy the fight, aren't you? Fight with a purpose. Leaving these heavy words behind, Philip turns away with confidence, leaving Jae-hyuk swallowed by immense shaken resolve and confusion. Meanwhile, in another corner of the city, Lee Min-chi faces her greatest enemy: English tutoring. She grips her pen in agony, struggling under strict supervision. Finally escaping the hellish lesson, Min-chi collapses in exhaustion, habitually ordering her sparring partner, "Hey, loser, come massage my shoulders." Amidst a pink, ambiguous atmosphere, Jae-hyuk massages her while cautiously probing, "What do you think about joining the group called Invincible?" "Just a bunch of brats playing adult." Min-chi scoffs dismissively. But Jae-hyuk can't drop his guard, his expression grim as he mentions the key name Seo Doyen. To uncover the truth, Jae-hyuk bites the bullet the next day on the playground, asking a friend for leads, while uneasiness spreads silently under the sunlight. A lead comes through the phone. A friend promises to introduce an insider. As the sun sets, Jae-hyuk hangs up, gazing at the darkening sky with a knot of anxiety. At a dusk street corner, a haggard figure in black appears like a ghost. "You're the ones asking about Invincible?" His voice is raspy, chilling to the bone. The man lowers his mask to reveal a face riddled with scars, trembling as he issues a warning: "Never get involved with those bastards." Fear spreads wildly in his eyes. Memories surge like blood as the man describes Han Philip's true nature, a true demon with a dragon tattoo, standing amidst a mountain of corpses, reveling in the carnage. Intermission. The story pauses briefly, much like the production team behind this cruel world, silently recruiting new companions in the dark night to continue the legend. Listening to the victim's account, Han Philip's demonic slaughter manifests in Jae-hyuk's mind, fear instantly gripping his throat, suffocating him. Rewinding 1 year, Han Philip wore that same kind smile as he handed the sinful hallucinogenic stickers to an ignorant boy, setting the trap. "I wouldn't hurt you." He wraps an arm around the boy like a brother, weaving an inescapable web with gentle lies, shattering the boy's defenses completely. At the party, the boy drowns in false revelry, thinking he owns the world, unnoticed by Han Philip in the corner, watching his prey fall with a cold, predatory stare. As the chaos fades into silence, only Han Philip remains awake among the unconscious. He strokes the sleeper's head with a chilling, possessive calmness, like a predator watching its prey. Harsh sunlight brings clarity to the pain. As the boy trembles awake, Han Philip waits with a devilish smile, whispering the cruel truth. "See? I told you. Just once is enough to own you." With zero guilt, Han Philip spins a web of addiction. The victim falls into the abyss, selling drugs to feed the craving, until he is left screaming in a dark, lonely corner, utterly broken. The addict's promises are worthless. Han Philip coldly expels the weeping, begging wreck from the organization. In a moment of shattered hope, he lunges desperately at his former master. A brutal kick ends the pathetic struggle. Han Philip sneers in contempt and walks into the rainy night, leaving the broken man behind. His silhouette is cold, decisive, and utterly alone. Hatred ignites revenge. The victim returns with a mob, blinding lights cutting through the dark. Han Philip laughs maniacally at the threat, only to be swallowed by a storm of blows. Cornered beast? No, the slaughter begins. Han Philip explodes into action, his fists and feet blurring with blue energy. He dismantles the mob with brutal precision, screams filling the alley. Blades weave a net, but cannot trap the demon. Han Philip dances through the steel, a grotesque smile on his face. Blood sprays with every dodge and counter, turning the alley into a slaughterhouse. The slaughter ends, silence heavy over the blood-soaked ground. The dragon on Han Philip's bare back seems to roar. A survivor, paralyzed by terror, trembles as he looks up at this inhuman monster. "I am the leader of Invincibles." His blood-stained face radiates arrogance. Meanwhile, a shadowed figure whispers a warning. Kim Jae-hyuk's pupils dilate, instinct screaming of approaching danger. The next day, sunlight cannot pierce the chill in the gym storage. Facing Han Philip's interrogation, Kim Jae-hyuk, though trembling uncontrollably, clenches his fists and screams his refusal. "Do you want to be my enemy?" Han Philip's smile freezes into lethal intent. The king who has never been refused bares his fangs. Kim Jae-hyuk turns to ice, knowing the nightmare has just begun.